Hey, what's up, guys? We have David Rams here. He is a animal advocate and a vegan, and also has his own YouTube channel, which is doing looks like it's doing pretty good on animal advocacy. So, how's it going, David? How you
Yeah,
doing
all
today?
good. All good, thank you. Yeah, thanks for having me here.
Yeah, no problem. So, can you tell us a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll
Mhm.
go from there?
Sure, yeah. I mean, my name's David Rams. I have YouTube, Instagram, probably around between the two of them around 80,000 subscribers and amassed over 20 million views, only speaking about animals and veganism, animal advocacy, and just basically trying to inspire people to make better choices for animals. That's my life's mission, it's my life's goal. And yeah, most of that I do through social media. Sometimes I'll do some work in the street as well, talking to people. And I've also been involved in investigations of farming and slaughterhouses all over the world.
Yeah, yeah. I feel like I've heard actually from Joe Rogan that like you're not allowed to like film in those areas, those like
Mm,
animal slaughterhouse, at least in America. Like if you
mhm.
film there, like either with a drone or whatever, like you're not supposed to because it's so brutal unless you have like the license or whatever, I'm sure. Is that true? Do you know?
So basically what they've got in some states in America is they called an ag-gag law, which is not just for slaughterhouses, it's actually for farms as well. So if you're a whistleblower and if you're working in there, or if you happen to get in there somehow and you film stuff, if they find out that you did that, if they can pin it on you, then you can be serving prison time for that. And that's not, you don't break anything. This is not, even if you were let in through the front door by a worker and you filmed, for example. So you've not broken in, you've trespassed, right? Fine, but that's fine. Charge for trespassing, fine, no worries. But in terms of, I don't believe you should be charged or serve prison time or massive fines for taking videos of something that. Well, shouldn't people be able to see that? Why should that be illegal? Why are you not allowed to share videos from inside of a farm? I thought most people would want to know what's happening inside of a farm. But no, some states in America, yeah, it's very illegal. It's not just a bit illegal. It's yeah, punishable by prison time or if not prison time, I think it's like talking like tens of thousands of dollars in fines, which is
Yeah.
absolutely insane. Yeah.
Yeah, but they just really don't want people to see that, I guess. But
Mhm.
so yeah, so first of all, yeah, how are you doing so well on Instagram and YouTube? It's a very hard thing to get that many views. And do you have any like suggestions for getting to the point where you're at? Is it just hard work and commitment, or
Well, it depends on what you're talking about. For what I do, it's very difficult, probably much more difficult than others, I would say, because I'm talking about things that people don't particularly want to talk about, right? A lot of, like I've just explained there with the ag-gag laws, I mean, there's literal laws to stop you from seeing the things that I'm trying to share. And so it's even harder, I think, for vegans and animal advocates, but consistency is a big one. Just don't give up. And especially in the beginning, just post whatever you come up with and don't spend too long on it because chances are in the beginning it's going to be crap and that's fine. All my first videos weren't great. Just keep that up and eventually you'll find your voice and find your place. And if any of your listeners are actually not actually only, but if your listeners are vegan or if they are interested in making the world a better place for animals and that's a passion, please start a social media for that. That would be incredible. I think we need more people on social media talking about this because it's so difficult to get any traction, right? And I do get traction. You are right. I've had some pretty big videos and I've had a lot of success. But compared to others who've been in their niche for as long as I have, it's really not that much success. It's really, really an uphill struggle. But we need
yeah,
more people doing it for sure. The animals need more people to speak up and raise awareness of these things that we're talking about.
yeah. I was gonna say it's not an easy subject. I wouldn't think it would be a good necessarily a good niche.
Mm,
But I mean, like at least you get like I know there's a lot of like women who are not only women, but like there's a lot of people who are into like what's that group called in America? Like there's pretty big groups. I know in
hmm.
America where like Pamela Anderson or whoever like celebrities are into them.
Yeah.
I can't think of the name. It's like a
You're talking about Peter.
yeah, pizza. Yeah,
Yeah.
I know there's a good amount of women and celebrity women who are into that, and like I
Right.
said, not only women, but I kind of feel like if women are into it, I kind of feel like that's kind of a good thing. I kind of feel like with TikTok, like if you can kind of
Mm,
like get in on like a women's, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to say this is like a women's trend or anything, but um, if you, I don't know, I kind of feel like for some reason if you can get like women into something, like that's like a good thing. You
mhm.
know what I mean? Does that? I don't know if that makes sense, but
Yeah, I
anyways, I
mean,
know there's a decent
yeah,
amount of
whatever it is. Sorry,
yeah,
go on.
yeah. It's kind of a weird viewpoint, but anyways, I know there's a good amount of like celebrities who are kind of like into PETA and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, but otherwise, I would think that it would be a hard niche to get into. Um, some are better than others. But so yeah, how did you get into it?
Well, I was born into a vegetarian family. So that was my mum was already a vegetarian and raised me as a vegetarian. So that was that was a good start for me. That was a good beginning for my life. And she raised me as a vegetarian, not for any kind of religious reason or for any health reason. She did it because she didn't believe that it was okay to kill animals for our enjoyment. She didn't agree with it, and she realized that burgers and steaks and chicken and fish and all these animals, uh, it's not for nutrition. It's just because it's easy and just because that we like it. And then once she realized that, she was, oh, well, if vegetarianism can be absolutely fine, then why would I kill animals, right? So she raised me that way. And for those who are listening and wondering, oh, what does this guy look like? I am 6'2" and 90 kilos. And you can use your calculations to figure out, would I be 6'2" if I had some kind of problem from protein from not eating meat? And the answer is no, I wouldn't. I'd be small and shriveled most likely. So they didn't do any harm whatsoever to grow up from a baby through to an adult as a vegetarian. So that was my start in life. And then, yeah, the last 15 years, it's around 15 years ago, somewhere around that, maybe 16 now, it's probably nearing 16. I've been a vegan. So that means no animal products at all, not meat, but not dairy or eggs or any of the other animal products, eating them or using them. And actually, I was, as an adult, I was like 70 kilos most of my life. For my height, that's quite low. But actually, 2 years ago, I made a decision to actually bulk up and like put an effort into bulking up because I was lazy. You know what I mean? It's nothing to do with my diet. I'm just lazy. And I put the effort in. I started eating a lot, going to the gym, and then I put 20 kilos on. And so again, this is just kind of doing some work there to debunk these ideas that, oh, you're vegetarian, you're going to be sick. And then, oh, if you're a vegan, you can't put muscle on. Well, I'm born and raised vegetarian, 6'2", and then put 20 kilos on after being a vegan for like 13 years. I put 20 kilos on after that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Staying a vegan. So that's kind of my story up until now. And I got into activism. I got into advocacy in around 2017. Started all my channels. Decided that I would make a go of it. And actually, the decision to make a go of this and make this my whole life came after I did a 10-day silent meditation in Nepal, believe it or not. I was doing a trip and I tried this thing out and I thought this is going to be a challenge. Let's see if I can, as you can probably tell already, I talk a lot, right? So me sitting down, still not talking for 10 days, everyone thought I couldn't do it. And during that time, I just realized that this is what I want to do. And so I committed to doing it full time from then on. And here I am. It's worked out so far. I've survived. I've been able to dedicate my life to animal advocacy. So I'm very happy about that. I'm privileged to be able to do that.
Wow. Yeah. Were you eating? That wasn't a fast, 10-day fast, was it?
No, no, no.
Yeah,
No,
that
no,
would
no, no,
almost
no.
be impossible, right? Like
It would.
you would die probably from 10
No, no,
days.
water fast. No, people do water fasts for longer than 10 days. There was one guy who did it, who was a vegan actually, and did it for 30 days. And this is part of the reason this guy ended up being an ex-vegan and ended up being one of these ex-vegan sob stories because he blamed his health problems. Check this out. He blamed his health problems on a vegan diet after he did a water fast for 30 days. Do
Oh,
do the
wow.
math on that. This happens quite a lot, believe it or not, with YouTubers and celebrities and things. They abuse their bodies with terrible diets, and then they go ex-vegan and they say, "Oh, it's because of the veganism." And then you look at what they were eating, and they were just doing juices or only eating salad or not eating. And you're like, come on, that's ridiculous. But yeah, you can water fast for, well, 35 days, I think, is one of the longest I've seen. And you lose everything, you look terrible, you look like you're about to die, but they don't die. They
I
come
would
back.
imagine that like the thing with me is like I have no energy when I don't eat. So it's
Right.
like I start to get like kind of like weak and like shaky and I'm just kind of like and so after like a I don't even think I can make it to a day, but like,
Mm,
after like half a day or a day, I guess I would probably just be like bedridden, I would think. Like how
yeah.
long have you fasted for? Or have
I,
you
d-
really?
I did it once. I did it once. I did it for I managed 2.5 days, and the first day, yeah, was what you just said. Really not nice, and I was doing it as a bit of an experiment, really. But the first day was horrible. Second day, honestly, you get some bursts of energy. It's like I don't know the exact biology behind it, but I think your body goes into some kind of survival mode and it feels kind of good. You get some energy, you get a bit jittery even, actually, a little bit kind of buzzing, but it
Wow.
crashes. Then it crashes though. You kind of go like a roller coaster. You'll be like, "Oh, I feel like I could do everything." And then an hour later you need to lie down. So, yeah, it's a bit like that, but I imagine it feels great once you pass the first couple of days. I understand why some people might want to do it, but it's generally not a good idea to do it for long. I think 48 hours is generally what the experts say is like a limit for most people, and no longer than that because you can
I think
damage
if
stuff.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think if I could do it, I would. But I feel like it's kind of like a hack in terms of like, but I think I heard like Jimmy Kimmel, like they asked
Mm.
how he got thin, and he said that like one day a week he like literally just wouldn't eat.
Yeah.
He would just fast for one day a week. And like if you have some kind of like right now, I'm trying to do the thing where I only eat like midday. So
Right.
like I won't eat till or I eat like more like afternoon, and then
Hmm.
I'll try and only eat that one meal, and even with doing that, and obviously I end up probably eating more, but even with doing that, it's hard. Even just like one meal is kind of hard. I kind of feel like if I was able to fast for a period of time, like a day or two, it would help me in losing weight. But you said you 90 kilos now,
Yeah.
and do you know how much that would be in terms of pounds? Because I
Oh,
only
that's a
know
good point.
pounds.
Yeah, no, it's a good point. I'll quickly Google that. 90 kilos, 2 pounds. That is 198 pounds.
Oh, okay. Well, for some reason, when you said 90 kilos, I was kind of thinking, for some reason, I was thinking kilos was like closer to pounds than it actually is. I didn't realize it was, so I was thinking you were like maybe low hundreds, but yeah, 198. Yeah. Either way, I mean, even low hundreds for a guy, I think is, whatever is good, but obviously 198 is good too. Like I'm almost like
Yeah.
jealous of people who are like guys who are like 130, 140, because I'm like, man, how do you get so fucking thin? Like I
Mm.
can never get that thin, but 198 because you bulked up is also admirable. And
It
what were
depends
you
what
at?
you, yeah, go on, sorry, I'll let you finish your question.
Oh, no problem. What were you at before that?
Oh yeah, sorry, yeah. So in American, I was hold up. I was 70 kilos before, and that would have made me I was like 154 pounds, which for a guy of
Okay.
my height is definitely on the lower end. But I was running a lot. This is the thing. I was lazy and I was running a lot, and I really wasn't paying attention to how many calories I was eating. And I lived like that for a really long time, and I was happy. I didn't have any health problems. I felt good. But people did comment a lot on, "Oh, dude, like not friends because they're not douchebags, but people online like, oh, dude, you're so skinny. You can tell you're vegan." And yeah, I had to keep on arguing with people. Like, I run a lot. I don't eat much. That's all. It's nothing to do with being. And eventually, I just hit fuck it. Basically, I thought, okay, you know what? Let's prove them all wrong. I started nailing 3 to 3,500 calories a day, crazy protein, smashing the gym with like the real. The gym programs where they're like designed just to build the biggest muscles in the body as big as I was just smashing those, and yeah, it happened pretty quickly. It was only like a year and a half or something like that where I went from 154 pounds to almost 200 pounds. Didn't take that long, and I
Yeah.
stayed on as well. I mean, I'm 35, so I guess it's going to be difficult to lose any. I've got some fat too, obviously. It wasn't all muscle, but yeah, shredding fat at 35 is not as easy as it was when I was 20. That's for sure.
Yeah. I mean, either way, I'm jealous of it. It's like if you're 150 or whatever, and you're skinny, like I'm definitely like I don't look at that as being bad. Like I look at it as
Mm,
being skinny as being good, and then also bulked up too, is good.
fair
Um,
enough.
as long, I mean. I'm more than I want to be. So I'm
Hmm.
looking to lose like 50 to 100 pounds or whatever. But
Fair enough.
I
Fair
have
enough.
recently started going to the gym, but it's
Nice.
like I kind of find that like I like lifting more than cardio, which I think is probably maybe normal. But I also kind of have found that like lifting, you can also lose weight by lifting. So I
Yeah,
don't do a
absolutely.
whole lot of cardio. I try and just do like really fast lifting, like do it like kind of like
Yeah.
not like heavy weights, but kind of just more like kind of like get a bunch of reps in. And I
Fair
find that
enough.
that's been working. And I kind of also find like if I only go to the gym like 30 minutes to an hour, like it's like if I'm telling myself I'm only going to go for like 30 minutes to an hour as opposed to like way longer, it's much
Hmm.
easier to go. Like I'll just go and I'll
Hmm.
do it as quickly as possible and then get out of there.
Right.
As opposed to being like I got to go for an hour to 2 hours or whatever. And
Yeah, no, I get you. You want to try out for your cardio, you can do cardio in 15 minutes and you will be absolutely screwed. There's something called HIIT training, say HIIT, HIIT training. If you do that for 10 minutes even, so what you do is you pick an exercise, could be cycling or whatever, running, whichever one you want to do, something that's cardio, machine or whatever. And all you do is you do 30 seconds at your full pace and then 1 minute at a very, very, very slow pace to recover, and just repeat that over and over again. If you do that for 10 minutes, you'll be puking. You'll be absolutely wrecked. But the reason I'm suggesting it is because it's only 10 minutes and it has an incredible impact. You're gonna get way more. I'm pretty sure you're gonna get way more out of that 10 minutes than you would for a 40-minute cycle session, because it's so intense.
on the treadmill,
It could be on a treadmill, could be on a cycle, could be on a bike, could be on a cross trainer, anything. Could be burpees, whatever you want to do. You do 30 seconds intense, 1 minute very slow. 30 seconds intense, 1 minute very slow, and just do that for, I don't know how long you want to do it for. When I used to do it, I used to do it for 15 minutes, and I would be getting off the treadmill feeling like I'm going to puke. And it was when I used to be super shredded, like really, really shredded. And that's how I got there. It's by doing that like once or twice a week on top of the lifting and stuff.
that's interesting. And it
Yeah.
almost sounds like that's I would prefer that as opposed to just running the whole 15 minutes. I'd almost prefer the 30 seconds and then slow. You know what I mean? Because it
We'll see how you
almost
feel about that after you've tried it.
does it have to do something with like the juxtaposition of going back and forth that kind of like messes with you or
I think I'm not 100% sure of the science. I just know that when I did it when I was younger, this is back when I was like a runner and I was trying to, be as good at running as possible. I just knew that it destroyed me. And once I got good at it, it was yeah, I was super shredded. It dropped a load of fat and also I felt really good. Like it got my cardio up really nice. But the other thing you want to consider is, I mean, we've spoken, obviously I'm an animal advocate, so I focus mostly on trying to get people to make changes that to help animals, right? But fortunately, one of the big benefits of that is that if you're eating a healthy, like a really healthy plant-based diet, like a whole food plant-based diet, a lot of people have used that to lose weight because it's if you're doing a what's called a whole food plant-based diet, which basically means you process, you can still eat processed food if you want, but it's really the small part of it. You're eating more things like chickpeas and lentils and nuts and seeds and different fruits and vegetables, and you're making up your protein with those. You're making up your carbs and your fat with those. If you eat like that, a lot of people find that they can eat well, like it's nice, it's good food, it's tasty, you feel full, but they very quickly can lose fat through that because well, you get more energy, you feel more motivated, you're not eating probably anywhere near the amount of calories that you would be eating if you were eating like a traditional American diet, which we know what that's full of, right? So yeah, a lot of people use that as a detox, or some people eat that full time actually, a whole food plant-based diet because of the benefits of feeling better and feeling lighter and losing fat and more energy for the gym and stuff like that. So something to consider, man.
what do you think about the opposite, the only meat diet like Jordan Peterson is
Yeah.
doing? Have you heard
So,
about
so
that?
yeah, of course I have. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, again, speaking morally, obviously, I know why you know why I think it's wrong, and I think if most people spent 5 minutes in a slaughterhouse, they would agree with me that we need to do something to try and avoid that at all costs, right? We're talking the carnivore diet is exclusively animal products, And coming from the places that I've investigated, so these farms, these slaughterhouses, I'll just quickly list off the things that they're doing in these places and the things that I've seen to give you an idea of why we should all be trying to do something else and not that. I mean, in the farms, they're taking little baby piglets, they're chopping their tails off and pulling their teeth out, and also pulling their balls out. They cut their balls out and take their testicles out. They do all of that with no anesthesia. So this is just literally a baby. Imagine they look like babies too because they're pink and we've got similar skin, right? They're picking up a baby and just pulling teeth out, chopping tails off. It's absolutely insane. So that's what they do to little piglets. They do a similar thing to the chickens as well. They chop the end of their beaks off. And they do that because if they don't do that, this is why they do it to the pigs too, by the way, they'll attack each other. Why would they attack each other? Well, it's because there's thousands of them crammed in together. If you crammed in thousands of humans together, what would happen? We'd end up fighting each other, right? We'd end up beating each other up. It would be a mess. They do the same thing. They lose their minds. And they all hurt each other. So they chop their beaks off. They pull their teeth out. They chop their tails off so they can't eat each other's tails and bite each other's tails and things like that. It's a disgrace. So that's just kind of one element of farming. And then when you look at the slaughterhouses, man, everyone's talking about this, oh, humane this, humane that. We're looking for the most humane ways. Currently, the most humane ways that we've come up with pigs, they gas them to death in a gas chamber. With chickens, sometimes they do the same thing, but if not, they basically have their throats cut by a machine, and then they're dunked into scalding hot water. And some of the chickens will, because there's so many of them going by every minute, some of them miss the machine, right? So they don't have their throat cut. So they just get dunked in scalding hot water, fully conscious, fully alive. That's very common, especially in countries like developed countries like America, where these machines are going really fast and they're not always working. And with cows, they're shooting them in the head with a gun, with a bolt gun, and knocking them out, and then hanging them upside down, slitting their throats, and blood gushing everywhere. You know, and bearing in mind that all of these animals, they have the understanding of the world of a human child. Children don't know what the hell is going on. They just know what we tell them and what we make them do. Animals are no different. So imagine that all of this is happening, and all these animals are just they have even less of an understanding than a child, and this is what we do to them. That's how we reward them, and that's how we're supposed to protect those that are weaker and vulnerable. But this is what we do to them. So the carnivore diet is literally everything that I've just said in a diet. Right? It could not be more supportive of all of those things, and so I oppose it completely. In terms of health-wise, which is what you asked, it's an elimination diet, an extreme elimination diet. Now, vegan or not, ask anyone who is actually deeply into nutrition. I mean, I don't mean like carnivore nutritionists and carnivore doctors, because these guys are bought into what's practically a cult at this point. I'm talking about legit people who they don't have any strong feelings about animals and veganism. Even the legit nutritionists are saying the reason that people feel good on carnivore is because it's an extreme elimination diet, which means it eliminates a lot of allergens, it eliminates a lot of problem foods, and it only leaves certain foods behind that are usually very low, and lots of people don't have allergies to these things. And so they feel great because it's just a very, very basic kind of one or two food groups or whatever it is. And yeah, you feel good about it. You feel good short term. It's an elimination diet. Like I said, you would feel good if you fasted for 2 days for the same reason. It gives your body like a break from certain foods that are difficult, or maybe you have some intolerances, and so you feel fantastic. But there's no long-term studies on it. And the father of the whole thing is I don't know if he's a doctor. I wouldn't consider him a doctor. His name's Sean Baker. This guy who came up with this carnivore diet, or at least he's one of the main proponents of it, he has said on podcast, like on an interview, that he has no idea of the long-term effects of eating this way. No idea. Yet he promotes it to millions of people. But anyway, you can predict long-term what will happen. What will happen is people will get very, very sick because it's a nutritionally inadequate diet. On the other hand, the whole food plant-based diet, it's not an extreme elimination diet, because you have the option of literally thousands and thousands of different fruits and vegetables and nuts and legumes and seeds, and they provide a full nutrition profile for you. There's nothing that you will be lacking. So it is some sort of elimination diet, I suppose, in a way, because you're not eating animal products, but it's not eliminating any nutrition. You can get all your nutrition. The only thing you would struggle with is vitamin B12, but vitamin B12 is supplemented to animals also. So if someone's gonna say, well, I don't want to take a B12 supplement, you already are. If you're eating animal products, you're already taking a B12 supplement. You've just put it through an animal instead. So just take it directly yourself. Um, so yeah, no, carnivore diet. Anyone serious about nutrition is mocking it and debunking it. Um, so that's that. And then on a moral standpoint, I think I made my case there as to why we should absolutely not do that to animals at the scale that carnivore diet is doing it, or at all, but especially not at the scale they do it.
Yeah, I mean, I eat meat, but I'm definitely not like I'm not necessarily proud of it. I don't hunt at all, and I wouldn't be proud of hunting my animals. What do you think about these guys like
Mm.
Jordan Peterson? I don't know if Jordan Peterson's too into like the hunting aspect, but like Joe Rogan and
Yeah,
who
yeah.
kind of like are all like proud of their hunting skills or whatever. Like, do you think that's kind of like a lame thing to be like? Obviously, you probably think it's like lame to be proud of, killing your hunting your
Mm.
own animals and eating it, right? Or what do you think?
Look, if me and you were sat at a campfire, uh, I don't know, some thousands of years ago, and Joe Rogan comes back and he's been out all day and he's gone out with his sharpened stick and he comes back with food for us in the way of animals. I think he is the most alpha motherfucker that's ever lived, and I am extremely happy, and I'm fist bumping, chest popping. We're gonna have a great time, okay? I think I'm gonna be like, you are the man, Joe Rogan. You are amazing. When Joe Rogan goes out with a high-powered crossbow, like a highly engineered, high-powered crossbow, and fires it at animals, not for because of survival, not because we need to, but because he likes firing arrows at animals and it makes him feel good. And he's doing it because he enjoys killing and also because he enjoys eating them. But he doesn't have to do either of those things and he could eat something else. Then no, I don't think that's a good thing. And I don't think he's a big alpha male as he thinks he is. And I don't think there's anything to feel good about. You you
Yeah,
you're going out and killing because you like killing, and then you're going out and it's the same as most people say. Oh, I hate bullfighting. Most people hate bullfighting. There is no difference between the bullfighter, Joe Rogan hunting, and to be frank with you, there's not much difference between those two and somebody who goes to McDonald's and buys a burger. All three of them is killing an animal for enjoyment, right? Just different involvement in it, but at the end of the day it's all killing an animal for our enjoyment, whether it's the enjoyment of watching somebody dance with a bull and kill the bull, the enjoyment of firing arrows at deer, or the enjoyment of tucking into a beef burger. It's all violence to animals for our own enjoyment, right?
yeah. It just seems weird to be like proud of killing animals, especially if you like animals. Like I know Joe Rogan likes his dogs or whatever, and it's
Yeah,
like
it's true.
to be like to see this beautiful deer or elk or whatever, he's killing and being like, oh man, I'm just so proud that like I'm able to kill this thing and just watch it die. Like, but like you said, I mean, I'm no better because I'm eating. I'm down. I'm just downwind from that. But by no means am I proud. I would never be proud of it. But what do you
Yeah.
think about this? Is kind of like a side note, because I don't think Jordan Peterson has anything to do with that. But what do you think about Jordan Peterson in general? Do you know him, right?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, I mean, to be honest with you, I used to really like him when he first came onto the scene. I liked that he was passionate about free speech. I'm very passionate about free speech. Obviously as an animal advocate, I have to be passionate. Every animal advocate should be passionate about free speech and should be demanding that we have free speech because trust me, if they start taking free speech away from people, we're going to be the first to go. They're going to tell us to stop and they're going to use that against us, right? So,
Do you think
free
so?
speech,
You think that's a big thing that they're like kind of? I mean, obviously, like we said, you can't film in the place, but
yep,
I would almost
already
think
there,
that
yeah.
I would almost think that taking away your freedom of speech to talk about it would just be kind of ridiculous. You know what I mean? It's like,
Hey, look, hey, do you not remember what happened during the pandemic? Do you not remember how they took away so many people's free speech, shut down blocked their bank accounts, took down their Twitter, took down their social media, literally restricted all of their free speech. So, I mean, there's no reason they couldn't do that again. And
I
if
kind
you
of
would
feel like the
ask,
COVID thing was a little bit different, just because there was a
Mhm.
lot of misinformation and just bullshit out there. I don't know how you view
I can,
that, but
I'll tell you what I think about that. So a lot of this supposed misinformation was from legitimate researchers and doctors, and they had their accounts taken off them and they were shut down because what they said didn't go with the narrative. Now, obviously, you want to protect the people, you want to do your bit for but who gets to decide what is and isn't true, right? And this is the question, and this is now we come to me and we come to the animal advocacy. The got a couple of questions you need to ask, right? Is there a lot of money involved in whatever you're talking about? And with COVID, the answer was yes. There was a lot of money. There's Big Pharma was involved, right? So there's a lot of money being exchanged. There's a lot of stuff on the line. With animal advocacy, is there a lot of money on the line? Absolutely. We're talking about I think it's to correct me if I'm wrong. I know it's multiple billions, but I think I saw some estimate. So it was like a trillion, possibly, dollar industry, and globally, it's definitely into the trillions for animal agriculture. Meat, dairy, egg industry, and leather and fur, and all these industries. And so there is a lot of money at stake. So there's a lot of money at stake. Is government involved? Yes. The lobbyists are in government, and they have a lot of power within government. They're pulling strings, same as Big Pharma does. And this is just legit, right? This is not conspiracy. This is just fact at this point. The conspiracy theory comes when, okay, if those in power making all the money want to start restricting the effectiveness of activists, how can they do that? Well, they can put out misinformation, which they do all the time. We can deal with that almost. I mean, it's hard, but we can fight back. But if we're going to start limiting free speech, for example, I don't know, offensive free speech. So say somebody says, I don't know, say with the, I don't know, somebody wants to be called a she and the person refuses, right? And they say no, I'm not going to do that. It's compelled speech. I'll call you what I want. They're a douchebag, by the way. That's not a nice thing to do. You should just do what people want, right? If they're being nice about it. But if you lock that person up because they won't say what they're supposed to say, then you've taken away their free speech. Now we open that door. What about if then somebody doesn't like that I say that, like I just said, bullfighter, a hunter, and a meat eater, there's not that much difference between them. Or what if a meat eater says, how dare you compare me to a hunter? How dare you compare me to a bullfighter? I want him shut up. Well, then who's to defend me? Why would they defend me? And say, no, he deserves his freedom of speech. Well, no, actually, we will take people's freedom of speech away if enough people are offended, right? That person wanted to be called a he. We took that person's free speech away because he wouldn't do it. Well, then take this one's away. He's upsetting people too. That's what I mean. And I think the vegans and the animal advocates would be some of the first casualties of a loss of free speech, and already have been, as we said, activists getting arrested, activists getting charged with different, for exposing factory farms, for exposing slaughterhouses. We already have limitations on our free speech, and I think that would get much worse if we. So Jordan Peterson, back to the point you're asking, yeah, I liked him in the beginning because he defended that. Is my point, is full circle. I like that he defended free speech. I like that he was arguing against compelled speech, because animal advocates, we should be passionate about that, because I think we would be a casualty if it went the other way. But I'm not a big fan of him now. I feel like he went a little bit off the rails. I don't know. What do you
Yeah.
think?
No, yeah, I totally agree. It's the same thing where I mean I was never like fully on board with him, but
Mm,
I mean maybe in the very beginning, like, but I saw his clips of him like talking as a professor in college, and I was like, oh, this guy's interested in psychology and all that kind of stuff I'm into.
same.
But then as you just said, he kind of got crazier and crazier, and it's like it's like I'm all for freedom of speech, but I'm not for like going after trans people or going after whatever group of people and that he eventually got to.
Mm,
Um, but like I don't know how it is where you are now in Croatia or England, but in America, like as far as I know, nobody's freedom of speech for the most part was being taken away. I mean, it's like Joe Rogan's the biggest podcast in the world, and he's almost every podcast, at least during that COVID period, he was talking. He had people on, so it wasn't like they were like really doing anything. I don't really, I'm not
mm.
really fully aware of people that they were like, completely shutting down, besides somebody like Alex Jones, who essentially is attacking like families of, where their kids got killed or whatever. So,
Yeah, there was
I,
some
I,
stuff. I,
I,
I
I
mean,
see what you're saying, but I kind of feel like it gets to, I'm totally for freedom of speech. I think that most people are for freedom of speech. I think most people
mm,
want to be able to say what they want to say, but it's kind of like, with certain people like Alex Jones, I mean, like
mm,
where do you draw the line? And I kind of understand YouTube or whoever not allowing him on their platform. I know that he is
mm,
still on, like, I know you can still watch him on his own website or whatever.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, I think that overall I agree with you on the freedom of speech thing. But when you're actively continuously giving false information, and it's like you could say, well, who's in charge of the information? It's like, well, I would hope the scientists or the CDC or like the people who actually should know about it. Like if
Yeah,
I'm sick, I'm gonna go to a doctor. I'm not gonna go to
sure,
some like
sure.
I'm not gonna like go to like some lunatic on a YouTube channel who's telling me that like what I should be doing. It's like no, I'll go to my friend who's a doctor. Or I'll go to my doctor who
Yeah,
I
no, I got you.
trust. And
The
it's like
problem,
like
oh, sorry.
if I start giving you like obvious misinformation, which is like I don't even know like maybe even the meat diet. Like obviously that should be the meat diet should be freedom of speech. Tons of people do that, but I'm trying to think of something that's like if I'm just obviously telling you to do misinformation and you're listening to me, not only you but like millions of other people are listening to me. It gets to a point where at some point it is just bad. Like like
Hmm.
smoke. Let's just say smoking is good. You guys, smoking is good for you. You should smoke. And I somehow convince you, or doing heroin or something. I somehow
Right.
convince you to do heroin because it's just so amazing. Even though I actually am for the freedom of speech of that, at some point you're kind of like, hey man, like maybe we shouldn't be, getting millions of people into heroin or whatever. You see
Yeah,
what I'm saying?
of
Like,
course. Yeah, there are
but
definitely
anyways, yeah.
there are definitely some things that need to be discussed. The only problem I have with it, the main problem I have with it, and the reason I'm passionate about it, in most cases, I will argue for someone's freedom to say whatever they're saying, in a vast majority of cases. In the case you just came up with there, that if someone's trying to convince everyone to do heroin, you might have me there. I might say, no, actually, I need to think about it a lot and like, what are the ramifications of trying to shut that person down and maybe even fine them, government wise. It opens up doors that we might not be comfortable with, and it might be better to actually leave them to do that. Long term, I don't know, but I definitely don't. I wouldn't like it for sure, and I would definitely be more inclined to say, well, that person maybe shouldn't have the freedom of speech. But the issue and the reason I'm so concerned about it is you mentioned there, like, oh, you have a problem, you go to a doctor, or you're looking for the CDC, and you're looking. But the thing is, these same organizations, maybe not exactly the CDC or not these exact doctors, but these same groups that were supposed to be helping us and the people who knew, they were telling you that cigarettes were healthy. Doctors were literally in advertisements for cigarettes and telling everybody that actually, the cancer scare and all these things, it's just nonsense and all the. So they were involved in the marketing and advertising of something that was literally killing people for quite some time.
Well, the
And
thing is,
so,
the science there changes. So at one point, I think they actually thought that I don't know if you could ever say that it was healthy, but they didn't think that it would
yeah,
kill you. The science changed. So
well, they
it's
hid
one
it.
thing if what
They hid it. They
I
hid
don't
it.
I, I don't know if I agree with that.
Look
I just
into
think
it,
it's
man. Look into it. Look into it. They obfuscated it on purpose, and
I mean,
they
maybe the
they
big tobacco did, but I don't.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, they did, and
well, no,
they
no,
did.
maybe the big tobacco did, but I don't know if
Yeah.
like doctors, like every doctor you go to, we're
Well,
just
no,
going
no, of
along with
course it's
this.
not. I'm not saying that. I'm saying big tobacco. Look, big tobacco is a lot of money, and that means they have a lot of influence. And so I'm not blaming necessarily the doctor. I'm not blaming the government, but they were lobbied. Both doctors and government were lobbied by big tobacco, and it's this very similar playbook to what big meat does now and big agriculture. I just recently found out that actually this is more switching to like an environmental point, but big beef knew very early on. I think it was 1998. They learned for sure the environmental impact that beef had on the environment, on the climate. They knew from as early as like 1998, and they put into play a massive misinformation system from then on to try to undermine anyone that tried to point fingers at the beef industry. And it's worked because nowadays, a lot of people don't believe the data. They don't believe it. They say, no, it's all just, it's just another one of those things. You just want to take our meat away and stuff like that. And a lot of people think that now. But it's because they've been working on that since the late 90s. And so that's the problem is when it comes to free speech and all these things, it's that the decision makers can be influenced, they can be bought, and they can be tricked. And if they go the wrong way and limit the wrong people's free speech, then we end up in a world where the truth never gets out. Because, for example, me, if the beef industry had their way, they would take away my free speech and anybody who wants to say what I want to say. And imagine if they succeeded. Could you imagine? Imagine in 10, 20 years from now, they get it through because they prove that they lie and they are able to prove that we are lying and our information is harmful and they've convinced enough people. and then all of a sudden, if I say anything, I go to jail. This is why I'm worried about the limitations on free speech. That really worries me, and it's happened. I mean, yeah, there's been examples of it where good people have been shut down. Whistleblowers in government, for example. And you've got one. You've got Edward Snowden, haven't you? Who did a lot of who's on the run from the U.S. still.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is with that is I don't really know how. Yeah, I mean I don't know how many laws he was actually breaking. I think that because he was like in the government, there were certain things that he
Yeah.
wasn't supposed to be talking about that he did, and I'm sure he signed some sort of contract. But yeah, there are people like that who are on the run. But for the
Hmm.
most part, I mean, I view America at least as, and I think I know that England, or I don't know about Croatia, but England can be more strict on, I guess, and
Oh hell
supposedly
yeah,
Canada,
yeah.
Canada, according to somebody like Jordan Peterson, is tightening it up. And I mean,
Right.
obviously, I agree with you on the freedom of speech thing. But I think there is. I definitely don't think what you're saying should be. But I see what you're saying, and like when it comes, and it's kind of the whole that whole thing is a little bit off topic. It's kind of off topic, but also kind of not when it comes because,
Yeah.
like you said, it could go to you guys. I didn't really ever think about it that way, that like they would be shutting down your freedom of speech, but
Well,
that could happen.
where there's
But
money, man. Where there's money, that's
yeah,
it.
and
You
that's the
know.
thing is I agree with that aspect of it. Do I think that these big pharma or big meat or whatever you
Mm.
call it, like do I think that they're money hungry and greedy? Yes. And also, even like I don't even think the government's perfect, obviously. I think there's lobbying, and I think that there's
Mm.
they could just be buying into bullshit or whatever. But yeah, I mean overall I agree with you. Yeah, we should have freedom of speech. To a certain extent, I think there should be limitations if for violence
Yeah.
or like maybe like just outright obvious harm.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I agree.
but
I don't think we're going to get into that. I mean, if we, yeah, this would be a very long
it,
podcast if we were going to get into every limitation. But I agree with you that I think there are
that's the thing.
we hit some walls, I think, where you would have me saying, okay, I guess in that circumstance, maybe I would have to budge a little. But it's just a very, very dangerous territory, is what I'm getting at. And the UK, actually, you mentioned the UK, they are actually seeing the results of that. When you start limiting free speech, how far can they go with it? And they went pretty damn far with it over the last year. I mean, a lot of people have been jailed for a lot of things that are unbelievable, like Facebook posts we're talking, and not instigating
Jail.
violence. I'm talking like just Facebook posts that are critical of the way the police are handling a certain situation with a certain ethnicity, and the police are not coming on to people's doors and sitting with them and threatening to arrest them if they post anything more like that. It's actually crazy, and
Okay,
also arresting.
so that's the thing, is that there's a divide between America and
Oh
where
yeah,
you
for
are. Because
sure.
I don't know if you've seen America, but Elon Musk has literally done the Nazi salute like on stage at the presidential
Yeah,
thing, and then also like Kanye West is literally on X, which now Elon Musk has made free speech, and
yeah,
he's literally just posting line after line after line after line after line of anti-Semitic tweet, and nothing's
mm,
happening to these people. Like Elon
yeah,
Musk is still one of the richest. Maybe a little bit is happening. There's some backlash to Tesla, but Elon
mm,
Musk is still one of the richest men. Kanye West is still probably one of the richest rappers. So in
sure, yeah.
America, like this isn't really happening.
No,
But
sure, yeah,
no, but I totally get it. If it's happening in England or Canada or wherever else, I get that. I think from my perspective, when I hear people like Jordan Peterson, whoever else saying this stuff, it's
mm,
kind of like I'm not seeing this the same way you are, but that's probably because I am in America. And Jordan Peterson is also, I'm assuming, like he might as well just live in America at this point. Because
yeah,
it's like why live in Canada if you don't like the laws? But
yeah,
anyways, I honestly normally would like to go down that road because I find it interesting, but it's kind of off the topic of what you're here for. You know what I mean? The
yeah.
whole freedom of speech thing. I mean, like you
I
said,
was still, it
it
was a
does
nice little
apply.
a nice little side
Yeah,
topic. It was all right. I enjoyed getting into
yeah,
it a bit, but yeah, just it's we can get back on topic. I mean, yeah, it's an important thing for me because of my animal advocacy, because I need the free speech. I need to be able to speak openly, and I'm not looking for freedom to go around and harass people, call people names and stuff like that. That's not what I'm considering when I'm saying I think I need to have free speech. It's more like I need to be able to have the right to try to encourage people and try to make people aware of the things that Animal Like wants to hide, which they really, really do want to hide. And I need to be able to put photos and videos up without fear of being arrested for it, you know. And it sounds crazy, and it sounds like maybe I'm making a victim of myself or something, but I mean, it's not an unbelievable situation, is it? I mean, you know, the power that some of these groups have, and if someone's getting a little bit too effective at what they're doing, you know, they do go into overdrive, and they do go hardcore with the misinformation and stuff like they'll open court cases and, you know, try and prove that, try and throw. For example, there's a guy, Joey Carbstrong over in England. He just did an investigation into a halal slaughterhouse in England, found them to be doing all sorts of horrific abuse and really nasty stuff to these sheep and goats. And he's gone to the government and said, hey, you know, you need to do something about this. I've got all the footage, here it is. And the defense are trying to get it all thrown out because the footage is over, I think it was over 60 days old. And it's like, wait, are you kidding me?
Oh my
That's
God.
insane. It could have been taken last year or the year before. If it's from this place, it's from this place. You need to go in there and do something. You know, so they really go into overdrive when they're on the defense, and they'll do any legal loophole they can find, anything to try and, you know, obfuscate the truth and you know, what they're claiming they've already made the changes and they've made it better, and it's like, come on, this is crazy. And you need to do something about this. This cruelty, by the way, that they filmed was absolutely disgraceful. Anyone listening, go on Joey Carbstrong's YouTube and watch it. There is a non-graphic version of it if you don't want to see the brutality, but it's even that's bad. You know, even the non-graphic version is horrible to watch. These are
Yeah.
terrible people.
It's
Yeah,
so funny how it's 60 days. It's like I could understand like 7 years or
60.
something, you know what I mean? But like
Right.
60 days, it's like, dude, like you're obviously just making shit up at that point. But yeah,
I
like I
think
mean
it
the
was
main
some
the
some
main
law. There's some weird law. I'll tell you what it was. Hold up. It's 90 days because it was over 90 days old. The FSA, the Food Standards Agency, is refusing to take it seriously because it's over 90 days old, um, which is a ridiculous thing, and it's obvious that they're being lobbied. That's why they do this kind of thing. They won't do their job if it's in their interests to not do their job. I.e., you know, food stand. This is my point to earlier when we were saying like who to trust. If the Food Standards Agency has really good connections with the meat industry, they're not going to look to prosecute the meat industry. They're going to look for reasons not to, because it's in their interests not to do anything if that's where they are sweet, you know, that's where they get, I don't know, support from or money from or whatever it is. They're not going to go against their own people. And so there's a lot of corruption when you get to these high levels.
yeah, like for what you're doing, it sounds like just like it's kind of like at least to me, it's like kind of like a common sense kind of okay, like you're obviously trying to do the right thing. Like
Mm,
we shouldn't torture animals, but when it comes to certain other things like the vaccine, I don't know how you feel about the vaccine, but it's like if I go to like my friend who's a doctor and I trust him and I say, "Hey, is it all right to take the vaccine?" He says yes, and he's a doctor. And I go to
mhm.
multiple doctors, but then I go to like someone else like Alex Jones or something, or some random person who has no clue,
Yes.
and they say
Yeah.
no, don't take it. It's like, well, who am I going to trust? Like I'm going
No,
to
I
trust my
understand. Yeah.
friend who's a doctor. I kind of feel like that whole thing got a little bit out of hand. And on top of that, I don't like once again, I don't know how it is in other countries, but nobody was really forcing you to take it here. Like it wasn't like they were coming into your home forcing you to take it. Yeah, maybe you
Mhm.
couldn't go to like certain restaurants or something like that or a concert, but it'd say, okay, that's fine, I'll just wait. But anyways, let's move on. That's how that just it kind of depends on what the issue is. Like I don't have any problem with you going on your YouTube channel and saying stuff about how animal slaughter is bad. I do have people who aren't scientists or doctors going on their channel. I have a problem. I'm not saying that they should even be shut down, but I
Mhm.
have a problem with me going on my channel and just spreading conspiracy theories that have like no basis in
Yeah.
reality. But then you're just lying to people for profit. And but anyways, that's a whole other issue.
Well, that's what the carnivore guys are doing, by the way. That's actually
Yeah,
they're,
that's
they're
true. But
basically
the
charlatans.
well, the hard part about that is it's
The influencers I'm talking about, not the regular person. I'm talking about
no,
the influencers. Yeah.
I know what you mean, but like I have a feeling that like people like Jordan Peterson and his daughter, I think that they I don't know who else if there's more than that, but I kind of think that they really do believe what they're saying, and it's like for
Mm.
them, it
So
like they'll say
yeah.
like Jordan Peterson to his defense on this particular subject, he'll say I'm not a doctor, I'm not like a
Yeah.
food scientist. However, this has really helped me and my daughter. I still do think it's like somewhat harmful because you're going to have a bunch of people going on it
Of course, yeah.
based off really bad information. Like you said, it is bad for you.
So
But
from my
once again, but
understanding
once again,
of
he shouldn't, his freedom of speech shouldn't be blocked. You should just, so you know what I mean? It's kind of a tricky subject. I mean, how many
yeah,
people is he
of course.
influencing? How many people is he influencing to go on that diet, which is probably, like you said, a bad diet to be on in the long
Probably
run?
a lot of people. The thing is with Jordan Peterson, I don't know if I've never seen him fully going into it and trying to sell it and make money off of it.
I'm
I
pretty
know
sure
he,
his daughter like literally is trying to sell it.
that's what I was
Yeah.
going to get to.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so
sorry.
Jordan, I don't think I've not seen him do anything like charlatan style. Whereas Michaela Peterson is 100% charlatan. There's videos on YouTube. You can go and check them out by Danny Ishay. His name is Danny Ishay. So he's done some deep dives on Michaela Peterson, and she has been found to be lying about multiple things that she's claimed. The time frames don't line up. Because the thing is, these days people live online, right? So when they make some claim, oh, I did this in this year, and this is when my problem started, and I was eating this, you can just go back through their social media if you want to do some investigation, and you can see if it matches up with what they were doing at the time. And with
Yeah.
her, there's a lot of lies, there's a lot of incorrect dates, incorrect statements that don't match up. We could pull it up and go through it, but people can go research it. You can go research yourself. The top and bottom of it is that maybe this diet did help her at some point or another, but she is lying and misrepresenting facts, misrepresenting data, lying about her own past, lying about how it's impacted her in order to, as you said, she's selling stuff, sell stuff and have a successful career. And a lot of them are. There's another guy called Paul Saladino, who was another guy who made a lot of money off the carnivore diet. Guess what? Not a carnivore anymore. Why? Because he got sick. And he openly admitted it. He said, I got sick. I wasn't doing good. He went through all these symptoms he was having, started incorporating plant foods back into his diet because of how sick he got. Then this is a guy who was made a career out of it. How wild is that? That he's literally made a career out of selling this diet, selling books and whatever the hell, supplements, I guess, stuff like that. And he can't even maintain it himself because it's not a healthy way of living, right? So these guys
So
are
did he end up stopping, I'm assuming? Like once he
yeah,
got
he's
sick,
not a carnivore anymore. No, he
yeah.
still makes content. He still makes content, and somehow people still support him, even though he was a liar. It's kind of like Liver King. I don't understand that as well. Liver King was exposed after telling everybody that he's so big and muscly because he eats organs, and then he's exposed. He's doing like $15,000 of steroids per week or something like that, something insane. And he still has an audience after he got exposed, after he admitted it, after he apologized. He still has an audience. He's still making money. I don't get how much more do you need, people? These people are lying
Yeah.
to you, and they're
Yeah.
making money off of your stupidity, or not your
It's
stupidity. Sorry,
crazy.
let me rephrase that. People are not stupid, but you've been tricked, and these people make money off of you being, trusting of them. They're making money out of your trust, not your
Yeah.
stupidity. I don't think people are stupid. I just think they trust too easily, right? He's a big muscly guy. Oh, I did this with organs. They trust him. You shouldn't. You need to, and when they get exposed, you should stop supporting them. They're liars and charlatans, right?
Was he somebody was because I haven't heard about the Liver King in a while. Like he got really
Yeah,
big and then I haven't really heard of him, but since.
it's still going.
But I mean, have has him or even after being proven guilty, the other guy, have they kind of shifted courses at least, or like are they still just kind of like saying
Liver
the
King
same
seems
stuff?
to no, Liver King is saying the same stuff, and Paul Saladino has slightly shifted. He's been a little bit more open-minded now. I think he acknowledges. I don't know if he has, but I'm pretty sure at some point he's acknowledged that you can be healthy on a plant-based diet, whereas before he was saying you absolutely cannot, and then now I think he's saying you can. And so, and this is the thing, right? He's always before the reason he was saying that is because he was trying to sell the polar opposite of it and he needed to make his money, right? But the thing is, all the data and all the science has already established that it's a nutritionally adequate diet. Why would you not be able to be healthy? You can eat plants and get all your nutrition, right? So there's no reason that it would be unhealthy. Um,
Yeah.
and so, he's been arguing against that basic fact for a long time, but I feel like he's not arguing against that anymore. He still critiques and stuff, but I don't think he's so yeah, he's reformed a little. You know, who knows? Who knows if he'll keep going down that road? But
Because yeah, I kind of feel like if somebody makes a mistake, even I guess even if they're lying, and then they come back and they say, "Hey, I'm sorry, I was lying," and they
mm,
kind of like redirect courses, I think that's fine. But if they just
yeah,
keep pushing forward, like Alex Jones, basically, who
hmm
has said so has been caught in so many lies, but then he keeps pushing forward with the bullshit. But
hmm
yeah, so yeah, in terms of well, like for one, like with the meat only diet, like to me, I kind of look at it from like a common sense standpoint. I'm like, yeah, like I'm probably not going to be doing that. That doesn't sound great. Obviously, if I was interested in it, I would probably do like a little bit of research. But like with the vegetarian diet, like obviously a ton of people are vegetarians. It's over a lot of time. We've had a lot of like I don't know how long the meat only diet has been going on for, but it's
hmm
like we have a lot of people like you and other people who clearly like it's working for over a lot of time. So I would
hmm
definitely trust that. What was I gonna? Oh yeah, so I was I had a guy on before who he kind of covers. I don't know if you know the intellectual dark web, but like the group
hmm
that like Jordan Peterson was a part of, he covers them, and he kind of had like in a bad way, like he kind of like says like what they're saying is false. He does this type of stuff where he like debunks conspiracy theories or whatever.
Okay,
And
yeah,
he was kind of saying, which was kind of surprised me, that he didn't think that like the intent mattered, like whether they believe what they're saying or not matters. He
right.
thinks that what matters is like what they're, I guess, is like what they're actually saying. I disagree with him. I think the intent is all that matters. Like you were saying with Michaela Peterson, I didn't really quite realize that Michaela Peterson fully had gotten caught in lies. But if she really believes, this kind of goes back to the freedom of speech thing. Like if she really believes that this is true, if she really believes that the meat only diet is the way to go and she's making money off of it, I don't really have a problem with that. But I do have a problem if she's actively lying about it. Because now you can just get into the straight con man kind of
Yeah.
or con woman territory where like you're actively lying to your listeners or your fans
hmm
and could be fucking up their lives. I don't
hmm
know how you view that.
I mean, look, it's an interesting one. You mentioned earlier on Elon doing the salutes, right? So
Yeah,
so we kind of touched on Nazis, and Hitler and a lot of Nazis really believed in what they were doing. They really believed in what they were saying, and they weren't trying to con people. They genuinely bought into it. And so, in that
so
example, it
bizarre.
doesn't really matter if they believed it or not. It matters what they were bloody doing, and what they were doing was bad, right? So I can kind of empathize
Oh,
with your friend because, with Michaela Peterson, whether she knows what she's doing or not, it is kind of irrelevant because what she's doing is lying and conning people.
well,
And
I'm
honestly,
saying if she's not lying, I'm saying
I'm
if
saying it doesn't really matter to me, I suppose, in a way. I
but if
suppose,
what
okay,
if she doesn't know? No, your point with the Nazis is totally correct. You're right about that.
I
Yeah.
would clarify this point though, that I would say that it matters to me in a way, in that if she doesn't know that she's lying, it's better because then it's okay. There might be room here for her to be a good person and turn this around. But if she knows that she's lying, that is definitely worse because then it's like you said, it's more conning and stuff. But in terms of the outcome, there really isn't a difference, right? In terms of the outcome's the same, right? But in a personal level, I would rather somebody just was unaware because then at least there's room for a discussion and you can change their mind maybe and show them. But yeah, if they're a con artist, you ain't changing their mind, are you?
But
You
see,
know?
the problem with that in terms of freedom of speech is, um, if I'm allowed to go on my YouTube channel and I have a big audience and I'm allowed to
Yeah.
say whatever I want, then same with Michaela Peterson, like she is able to say whatever she wants.
Mm,
Um, but I kind of feel like it's kind of hard for me to explain this, but I kind of feel like if since we have the freedom of speech to say whatever we want,
hmm
I think that's fine as long as like you're being honest. And I think part of the hard part that I was having the debate with the other guy was like, how do you even know if the person's being honest? But like you said, my kind of point was like you were almost able to catch Michaela Peterson in lies because there's so much
Yeah.
she has so much online presence that you can say, oh well, you said this here, but a month ago or whatever, like you said something different. Now
Yeah.
you're getting caught in lies.
Mm,
Um, but I mean, I even heard, I just heard about this recently where it was like, I don't know if you know about this, but I guess like, Nazi people, neo Nazis or whatever, like went through a town in Skokie, Illinois, where like there was Holocaust survivors or a big Jewish community, and they
Right.
were protesting and marching, and even the Supreme Court or whoever said that that's okay to do because they have the freedom of speech to do that.
Hmm.
So with it's kind of hard for me to make my point, but with the freedom of speech, I would hope also comes some like um what do you call it? Integrity. And I hope
Mm,
that people
yeah.
who have the power of freedom of speech aren't intentionally lying to people just to make money. And
Hmm.
but
Sure.
like you're right, I think the outcome of it doesn't matter. Like the outcome of
Yeah,
Michaela
yeah.
Peterson's meat diet doesn't matter. She's obvious, like whether she believes it or not, it's kind of like a bad. Same thing with the anti-vaccine or pro-vaccine, whichever way you look at it.
Hmm.
Like I kind of feel like if somebody is even with the anti-vaccine thing, like I don't know how you feel about the vaccine, but it's like if you go on your YouTube channel and you say that you think the vaccine is bad, but you really
Hmm.
believe the vaccine is bad, I'd be like, okay, well he's preaching his truth. But if you don't even believe that yourself, you're just a snake oil salesman who's trying to profit off people. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I understand it. The
But
outcome's
your
the same,
point,
as
your
you said.
point,
Yeah.
your point with the Nazis is true. Like, I don't know how
Well,
the
yeah,
Nazis
those
were
guys
going.
marching in Illinois, they believe what they're marching for, and I think, yeah, no, it starts to become complicated because, yeah, intuitively, I want that shut down. I want that march stopped. I want any march that has that any march that involves extremists who want other people to be exterminated or beaten or whatever it is. I mean, yeah, I mean, intuitively, instinctively, I want that shut down. I want those people, I want their bank accounts closed. I want everybody to know who they are so they can't get work. But that kind of level of power, it's really tricky because the powers that be could very easily convince you and me that a certain group of people should be closed down, that they're dangerous, and actually they might not be. And this is the issue. This is the real risk. They might not be that dangerous. They might not even be what the people are saying they are. But when you control the media, or when you have influence in media, when you have influence on people, you can convince them that their friends are their enemies, and then you can convince them to hate. That's literally what the Nazis did in Germany. That's literally it. They convinced the German people to hate their neighbors because they were Jewish. They didn't have hate there before. They lived side by side. I mean, there might have been the odd problem or whatever, who knows? But it wasn't to the point where they said, "Yeah, get them all and kill them all." I mean, I don't think many Germans were thinking that, but they were at some point. You know how that's how easy it is to get millions of people to believe that your neighbor is your enemy. And so this is the risk of it. It's a real. That's why I'm saying we got back to the topic, but we're never going to get to the bottom of it because this is debate that the world's
Yeah,
most
yeah,
intelligent people are having, and they ain't getting to the bottom of it either. So I
yeah,
don't
yeah.
I don't think little you and me are going to do
Yeah, yeah.
it.
Well, I would hope like with time, as far as even though there still are Nazis today, like I would hope that with time we're kind of learning more, and I hope that we're further along now than we were in the 19 was it that was the 1960s, or when was World War II? Was it the 40s?
40s.
40s.
Yeah.
So I would hope that like hundreds of years ago they were probably doing way more barbaric things than they are now. So I hope we're kind of moving in the right direction. One last thing, and then
Same.
we'll
Yeah.
we'll go back to the. But even though this is like really interesting to me, and like you're a smart guy to talk about with, like you said, we're not going to solve it, and you're here for animal
Definitely not.
advocacy. But
Well, we could do this all day. We wouldn't get
I,
to the
I
bottom of it.
I miss what were you saying about the I forgot what you said about the Elon Nazi salute. Were you saying that like what was your point with that? Even if he doesn't
I was
believe
just
it,
I was just saying, like, it brought us onto the topic, that's all. But yeah, no, I wasn't. I was just referring back. I was just doing a callback to that to introduce the the point I made about Hitler. I'm not really that interested in the whole Musk and whatever he did or didn't do or anything like that. I think I'm more interested in someone's behaviors as opposed to what they do with their hands. And I think,
oh, okay.
yeah,
So you almost think that like what I don't even want to get into it, but I was just curious to what you
yeah,
said. You almost think like what he did was like justified. Then like you don't really
don't know.
care.
I've no idea. I've no idea what was going through his head. I know what it looked like. We all know what it looked like. I've no idea what he was thinking. I've no idea why he did it. And so all I'm interested in is, I'm more, the reason I don't like Elon Musk actually is because of what he does to animals, which brings us back to the
Oh,
reason I'm
really?
here. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Neuralink, his company, they do horrific animal testing for testing those brain chips. Just
Oh, yeah.
terrible, terrible testing on like horrible experiments on animals. So I'm more interested in what Elon does, right? What are his actions? What is he responsible for? That's one of the things I'm very passionately against him on, and I really dislike him and his company for that. And I'm sure there'll be many other things, but to be totally frank with you, I'm not particularly interested in whether he did or didn't do the salute. It's like it's at the bottom of the pile of things that a billionaire should be in trouble for. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
even though I agree with you, I kind of feel like it's something that you probably should not be doing at like a presidential inauguration. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, lots of the
I mean,
problem
unless
is
you can say
like,
it was a mistake, but if it's not a
yeah,
mistake, what was the purpose of it? Like just kind of
he was
to be
saying my heart
funny?
goes out to you. He was saying my heart
So
goes out to you,
was
and
he
he
actually?
touched his heart, and then
Does he actually say that he that's what he was doing? He wasn't doing the Nazi salute. He was
he
saying my
says
heart
that.
goes up.
Yeah, he says my heart goes out to
Okay,
you.
okay,
He does
okay.
it. He does it like 3 times actually. There's one in
Anyways,
front, one to the side, one to the other side. And then if you look, there's a lot of Twitter accounts that are on different people that have been posting loads of videos of other politicians doing not they don't touch the heart, but they do the straight arm salute. And most of them Democrats, and it's because it's a very common thing that you do when you have a crowd of people. You put your hand up like that. But the problem with his one, obviously, is that he also said, "My heart goes out to you," and that's like a full-on Nazi soldier thing. So whether he
yeah,
meant that or not, who knows, right? Who knows? The guy's weird, so who knows whether he meant it or not. But yeah, like I
yeah,
said, I'm more interested in his yeah, people's what people do is more like in terms of the impact on the world is more interesting to me than there are I don't know like a symbol they throw up or what they're wearing. I'm more interested in like okay, what has this person done for the world? With Twitter, it was good. I think it's good that he opened it up because it was very, very restricted before that. So there are good things that he's done, but yeah, with this animal testing, it's unforgivable, and he needs to stop that. It's
yeah.
horrific.
His Twitter X stuff is, I mean, Twitter X has become pretty wild. But anyways, I definitely want to get back to the animal advocacy thing. So
Sure, man.
in terms of that, how like is he testing on a lot of animals? Like I thought, I kind of assumed it was only like not even like this is all right, but like
Mm.
I kind of thought that it was like a couple monkeys or something like that. Is this kind of like a pretty big deal?
So
Is he using like a ton of animals for that?
yeah, he's doing tests on, I believe he's tested on monkeys, but animal testing uh, in the West actually is a lot of people don't know. It's in full swing and it's done to animals you would never imagine. So they're testing on cats, they test on dogs, they test on mice and rats, monkeys and rabbits. That's the most of them. A lot of people are shocked though that they do testing on dogs and cats. The others people tend to know about, and it's absolutely horrific of course, but the animals that people would think are very well protected in our society, dogs and cats, no, they breed dogs and cats specifically to go into labs to be tortured with these tests. There's actually a big breeding facility in the UK that supplies a lot of the dogs for a lot of testing around the world. They export them. Called MBR Acres. There's an activism group over there called Camp Beagle. They've been camped outside that facility for I think like maybe years now, like 4 years, and they have a permanent protest site there. They live there, just outside the place to try and protest them every day. It's absolutely horrific.
Outside of the
MBR Acres, yep, the breeding facility, beagles. They breed beagle dogs.
but I mean, is this for the Elon Musk what's it called, Neuralink?
I don't know if any of those dogs go to Neuralink. I don't know.
But they
They're
are just to be
quite.
tested and that's
They
what
do
they're
all
used
sorts
for.
to them. Yeah, they do all sorts to them. They do things like to take biopsies, take parts of their skin off them, like cut pieces off them, attach things to the drilled into their skulls, test different chemicals on them, see if it burns their skin. And the craziest thing about animal testing that a lot of people don't know is that the vast majority of testing on animals is insignificant for the later processes. So what I mean is you could test a chemical on a dog or inside make a dog ingest a chemical and they have no reaction, and then you put that same chemical in a human, it almost kills them. And this tends to be the case for most of these tests. And some of these tests have gone so bad before that they did animal testing with this. It was some, I can't remember what the drug was. So they used some new drug, tested it on an animal, and it passed the test. They took a sample of this chemical, of this drug, that was, I think it was 1,000 times less potent than the one they gave to the animal, and tested it on people, and they all had severe organ failure. 1,000 times less potent, and it gave humans severe organ failure after passing animal tests. And so, even if someone's like, look, whatever, the morals don't bother me, I just think we should keep testing on animals because they think it's good, it's not even good. Even if you don't care about animals, it's completely ineffective. It's just torture and suffering for something that doesn't even work. And there's so many alternative options now. Like these chip technology. So basically, it kind of acts like a human system on a chip. It's crazy. I don't understand it fully. The scientists understand it, and there are groups that are calling for switches to these new testing methods because they're so much better. But again, like I said to you earlier, man, where the money is where the problems are. There is a lot of money in the system of animal testing. This is big pharma again,
I
and
agree with you on that.
they
Yeah.
ain't gonna budge, man. They ain't gonna budge. And then so these are scientists that are like pushing for this. They're fighting against billions of dollars, and so they're not winning. But if this is where people come in again. Like people who feel strongly about this, which I think everybody should feel strongly about this, is an ineffective system that tortures animals for nothing practically. Well, if there's a lot of us, right? If we all speak up and we all refuse to support certain companies and things like that, then they have to start changing, right? And this is the reason to be a vegan in the first place, actually.
Yeah. So I had a few more questions about what we were talking about before.
Yeah,
If
sure.
we can go over those quickly, and then maybe just like the ethics. And I was just going to say to that, like, obviously, in terms of ethics, I don't really get the mindset of like the morality. Like, I don't really care if these animals are being hurt or whatever, because it's like they're obviously like living, breathing, emotional creatures
Hmm.
that you can tell, like, if you hurt it, you can, it's not like it doesn't matter. Like, like, why would you want to hurt any type of, and like, I don't really see how you can, how you can moralize it and say, oh no, it's fine. But then again, like I said, I am eating meat. So if I really want to like live by my words or philosophy, then I should probably stop doing that. But, um, yeah, so in terms, let's just get into the ethics of this stuff.
Sure.
So in terms of the ethics and like what I just said, basically, and the philosophy behind it, I think that some people might be able to justify it by saying like, well, we've evolved to eat animals, for millions of years, or I guess we could have potentially evolved to not eat animals, right? Like we could have just been vegetarians, right? But I think a way to justify it has been, we've been killing animals for millions or however long, but thousands or
Yeah.
millions of years. And we're kind of just at a point where this would be the justification, obviously. I don't necessarily agree with this, but it's just part of life. And it's like, we have to eat them, and then um they eat other animals. They would eat, some of them like would eat you if they could. Like they don't give a shit
Yeah.
about you. Like bears or whatever will kill you if they're hungry or
Yeah.
shit. Um,
It's true.
so what would you say to, I guess, like the alternate viewpoints in terms of
Sure.
that, and then also I've heard some justifications by people like Joe Rogan where they say like certain animals like almost need to be killed off, and not only that, so
Mm.
that's one, like there's certain deer or something or pigs that are like in certain
Mm.
areas that if they don't get killed off, like they'll just like kind of like take over the whole like landscape. And then I've also heard that like with vegetarianism or veganism,
Mm.
there's even like some sort of like even when you're doing like the gardening or whatever for the vegetation,
Hmm.
something bad goes on there. I kind of forgot exactly what it was. Like you're killing
Yeah.
bugs
Yeah.
or rodents or whatever. So
Yeah.
so
Crop
how would you
protection.
justify the whole thing from like a broader picture?
Okay. Well, your first thing was the evolution. So our
Yeah.
ancestors, they did what they needed to for survival, right? They weren't thinking, well, this is the most nutritious thing we can get a hold of. They just got a hold of whatever they could get a hold of, and that's how they lived. And now we are here in 2025. We don't have to do that anymore. So regardless of what they did or didn't do, it doesn't, I mean, it gives us some indication of how we got to where we are, but it's not an ought. It's like, okay, that is how we got here. Is that how we ought to continue? Well, the answer is not necessarily no, because we have a better knowledge of nutrition and we can make choices now. Like, what do we want to eat? And we find out, well, we have this diet that involves animal products and we have this diet that doesn't. Now, are they both nutritionally adequate? Yes. Okay, cool. So I can choose one or the other. Great. And okay, which one of them is more ethical then? Because that's something we've developed now. Our ancestors didn't necessarily have this kind of idea of, oh, I'll think about others because they were just trying to survive. You don't tend to really think about the lives of others when you are going to starve to death, right? But now we are not starving to death. So we can start to look and say, okay, right, well, how do we, let's do something good for others then. Let's do something good for animals and do something good for the homeless. Let's do good some, because you're taken care of, right? And that's where we're at. So we can get our nutrition from the plant-based foods and we can say, well, yeah, I could eat animals, but I think, like you said earlier, animals are thinking, feeling, emotional creatures. I don't think we should breed them into captivity, violate them, and kill them just because I like how they taste. So I'm going to go plant-based. I'm going to go for this animal-free food instead. I'm going to choose the animal-free option at the restaurant or whatever, And so the ancestors. That's kind of my take on the ancestors point. I think after that, what was the next one you said? Sorry, after that,
The next one
there
would
was
be
like
like, I think
five.
I feel I'm sorry. I throw
It
so
was like
many
animals
out.
would kill you. I think it was. It was
Well,
animals.
there was that one. Like I think Joe Rogan will use that one a lot. Like they don't give a shit. Like
Yeah, 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 for sure.
they'll kill you. They kill each other. Like they have
Yeah,
no laws, kind of like amongst killing. So I guess like why should we?
yeah, right, right. And so that's basically kind of begging the question, should we base our behavior on animals? And my answer to that would be no. Let's not do that. That's not a good idea. Even
Yeah,
just the dog in your home, who is very, very domesticated, still does some stuff that you definitely don't want to imitate, Like, I don't have to go into detail. I mean, they eat their
yeah,
own shit, right, sometimes. So
yeah.
let's not do that. And animals, yeah, they don't have our brains. They don't have our really highly developed systems of morals and ethics and kind of decision making like we have. They just think and do very quickly. Some animals can think a lot more. Some of them can think a lot less. But they're mostly kind of just behaving, and there are exceptions. We do see some animals they seem to show empathy sometimes, and we're seeing that they're a lot more complicated than we first thought for sure. But no, we shouldn't imitate their behavior. We can be different, and we can definitely make more ethical decisions than a wolf or a lion does, right? They obviously also they don't have a choice either. That's another part of it too. They
Yeah.
literally have to eat meat until lab meat comes along, and then maybe they could switch to lab meat if they feel so ethically driven to do so. But I think you'll be waiting for a long time if you're going to try and convince a lion to eat lab meat.
Do you think that if we ever got to a place where, like, for some reason we de-evolved or whatever, like something happened to where we had to, then do you
Yeah.
feel like with an atomic bomb or whatever,
Sure.
like
Oh,
something
sorry.
like,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
sure.
yeah,
Gotcha.
like, do you think that if we kind of got to a point where we couldn't live off this plant diet, then um, it would be fine? Like right now, we're in a situation where we can live off a plant diet,
Yeah.
but do you think it would be fine if for some, or maybe you're just living in an area like
Yeah,
for
no, I get
tribes
what you're getting at.
for tribes who are living in Amazon or whatever, they're
Yeah.
do you think it's all right for them since maybe they don't have the same like kind of like morals, or like they're not in the same situation as us?
Well, from the animal's perspective, no. Obviously, it's never okay for the animal. They never want to be, you know, hunted down or bred and killed. But in terms of, if you're asking me, is it understandable that people do it for survival? Then, well, yeah, of course. And would it be understandable if I did it for survival? For example, in some horrible situation where I had no choice, would I expect to be understood? I would, yeah. I'd expect that people would say, "Hey, look, people have eaten people in times of survival. We don't judge them for it. We say, look, you did what you had to do. If the person had already died, obviously, we say we did what you had to do. If they killed the person, then we start to get a little bit, oh, I don't know, but I still think most people would understand if it was a life or death survival situation, that there is a kind of survival of the fittest element. And I think most of us would get it, right? Even if we don't agree. But I don't think we should be understanding of people who pay to have animals put into captivity, violated, and killed because of they enjoy it, right? They enjoy a taste.
Yeah.
I feel like that's where I understand how we got here, but I am not understanding. I would be significantly less understanding of that, of the moral kind of backing to that. Put it that way. Like I get it if someone would say make a moral argument of I had to, like literally, I didn't want to die, I was going to die. I'd say, do you know what? Fair enough. But if someone stands in front of me says I really, really wanted to, I just really liked the taste, I'm a lot less understanding of that. And it's like, come on, that's not really a good reason to do something violent to an animal, right?
Yeah. And even like with evolution or even in like current times,
Yeah.
don't we always have the option to kind of like eat vegetation, or you know what I mean? Like even if you're in the Amazon or whatever, can't, or I guess it would have to be like a luscious area or something, but aren't you
Yeah.
able just to still be like, you know what? I still don't even want to kill animals. I still just want to, I'll just eat these vegetables from the tree or whatever.
No, it would be tricky. It would be tricky. You know, I do feel really bad for people who, I imagine there are people out there who live in a situation where they literally, for, you know, a lack of resources or a lack of, you know, connections and whatnot, like they're in some middle of nowhere and don't have access to vegetables and fruits and things like that, and they have to kill animals. Could you imagine if you were somebody who cared about animals and you deeply respected animals and you had no choice but to kill them? What a horrible existence that you would feel guilty every time, and you'd have to learn to fight the guilt. You'd have to learn to deal with it. And you know what, the reason I would say, like, just think about that and see if that, you know, how you would feel. And if you want to see how that pans out in real life, we actually have real life examples. Go and speak to anyone that works in a slaughterhouse. These people are absolutely destroyed in most cases. They have really high levels of PTSD, anxiety, violent behavior, domestic violence in the home. You might meet some that are better at coping with it, but you're probably not going to meet many of them that are healthy, mentally healthy. The coping mechanisms they have to go through after 9 hours a day of killing baby animals. Because, by the way, there are actual babies killed for things like veal, for example, which is a baby cow, and there are piglets. A lot of countries in Europe like to eat baby piglets, but even if they get to full size, they're still babies because of the chickens grow so fast. They're like a couple of months old in most cases. The cows, you know, the oldest a cow will go to a slaughterhouse is around 2, 3 years old, maybe, when they can live for 20 years, by the way. So these people are in there killing terrified baby animals that have no idea what's going on or why they're there. It destroys them. So yeah, I feel really bad for people that are in a position where they have no choice. I think that's something we should look to fix in the world, so that everybody has the choice
Yeah,
to
well,
not do that.
I was going to ask too, in terms of the people who are working in those places, like you almost have to be to be able to like be okay with it. You almost have to be like a psychopath or a sociopath, right?
Well,
I
they
was
get to
almost
that
like,
point. They get to that point. They don't start that way, but they definitely work towards that. They have to close off parts of their brain. They have to turn off their empathy, and then yeah, it leads to them being violent to society as well. They're killing each other. I mean, just Google, look into it later, like slaughterhouse assaults or slaughterhouse murders. There's slaughterhouse workers who are killing each other inside the slaughterhouse and in the car park outside, stabbing each other, shooting each other. You know, maybe they were violent before, but this definitely didn't help, did it? This job doesn't
yeah,
make you less violent, that's for sure.
it literally kind of manifests outside of animals. Like you go from killing animals all day, and then when you leave, you kind of
Hmm.
turn into like just a violent, you
Hmm.
know, angry person who starts hurting humans or whatever. Like it,
Right.
that's like kind of like what it
Absolutely.
turns you into. And then the last question would be, or was basically,
Yeah.
this is all coming from Joe Rogan. I think he's the only
Yeah.
guy I might listen to who's like really, you know, gun. I don't know if like, I know he's had other people on there. I don't know if you've watched, but who are all like hunters or whatever. But
Hmm.
yeah, he brings up how in certain areas, I feel like he said how
Yeah, I
certain areas of
remember.
Hawaii, like
Yeah.
you have to kill, I think it's deer or something like that. In certain areas, maybe it's pigs
Yes.
or
Yep. Okay, I got you. I remember your point there.
wild hogs or whatever.
You had 2 points. That was it. You had the one point about these big populations, and he's saying they need to be killed. And then the other point Joe Rogan makes is about during the production of plant foods that there are problems there. So I remember now. I'll go through both of them. Yeah. So his concept of, well, you know, we have these too many of these animals, and so we have to go in and kill them. If you don't kill them, then it's going to be worse. firstly, you got to ask yourself, how has that happened then? Because the ecosystems that we live in, they don't work like that. Like there aren't species of animals that require humans to kill them in order for them to work in the ecosystem. That's not how have we got to this place? Well, it's because we took all of the land and we killed most of the predators, right? Because they were a threat to us. So we created this imbalance in a system. We messed it up. And then what? So now we get the right to go in and start shooting. Now, some people would say, well, yeah, we do. That's how we fix it. Okay. Then I would challenge you with this. I would say one of the biggest achievements we've done as a human race is medicine. We came up with all this medicine, and so now people that would have normally lived to 20 or 30 are living to 90 or 80 because of modern medicine. And this is also the case in a lot of poor areas of the world where they only have access to really basic medicine like paracetamol. It's saving lives in these areas, right? But then they're starving and they have diseases and their lives are pretty much suffering, right? They were pretty much suffering for most of their lives, but because of some of these modern inventions and cleaning water and stuff like that, then they can live longer than they would have done. And so by Joe Rogan's logic, well, listen, if we leave them, they're going to suffer more. So get the gun. We're going over to some rural village in Africa to sort it out. And you're smiling because, but that's how insane it
No,
is.
it's
You know,
messed up. Yeah, that's why.
I'm
Yeah,
laughing too. It is funny. It is a funny thing because obviously
it's
no one's
crazy.
ever going to do that, right? But
Yeah.
if you take that Joe Rogan logic with the deer and you put it into a human context, we literally have the equivalent in the human world. We would never dream of going in there and killing them for their own good because we'd say, no, that's these. They have lives. They have. So what if they're suffering? We can't just go kill them. We have to find solutions that don't involve going in there and massacring them. Well, why can we not do that for the deer? Why can we not do that for the pigs? And I know it's
Yeah.
difficult, and I know a lot of people are having real problems with them. But I mean, if we're just going to take to killing, thinking, feeling, breathing, animals that want to live because they're an inconvenience to us, and then use the excuse of, well, it's for their own good. I think that's a very violent way of dealing with it, and we need to find better ways. And if that takes more time, then so be it. It's going to take more time to fix, these villages in poverty. We don't get to go drop bombs on them, right? And that's not a good. We're not going to do that. So let's not do it to the deer either. So that's
So
that's yeah.
real quick, in some of these villages that we're kind of go, in Africa or wherever, we're going there to help them out by having them live longer, giving them water. But then even like at that point we kind of just stop and they're like from 30 or 40 to 90, they're just in suffering basically. Like
Well,
is
there's
that
always there's incremental advancements in these areas. Well, my point is though that
no, I understand what yeah,
a lot of diseases that would have killed people very early are no longer killing people very early because there's aid now. But there's still not enough aid that they're out of poverty. They're still suffering from disease and they're still having
yeah,
pretty bad lives. And so, the point is like the point is okay. Let's go and even without the poverty, sorry, without the aid, without the drugs, whatever, there are people just suffering in these areas and they'll suffer for quite a long time. And by Joe Rogan's logic, okay, let's go and put them out of their suffering then. It's because there's too many of them. And if we kill some of them, there'll be more resources for everybody else, right? It's really not good logic. And we're going to balance out the ecosystem of this rural African village. This is the how mental it sounds and crazy it sounds in a human context. And if you were to tell me that, well, it's different for humans and that's why we don't do that to humans because animals are lesser than and lower than humans, well, you can believe that, but in the ways that matter, in the ways that truly matter, like we feel suffering, we feel pain, we have a preference to live, and we have emotions and complex. We are the same in that way. We might be more complex in one way, they're more and less in one way, or whatever, but we have those baseline similarities that mean that it shouldn't be okay to go and massacre deer the same way as it shouldn't be okay to go massacre humans, regardless of your religious view on that, or whatever, take you have. And
yeah.
your final question, I'll get to it before I forget it again. It was about crops. It was about fruit and vegetables and growing them, and how it comes with a cost as well. It impacts wildlife, it impacts insects' lives, pesticides, the methods.
Rodents,
Say again?
rodents, right?
Rodents, yeah, the methods they use. So first of all, pesticides aside, A lot of people talk about the machines, that the combine harvesters that go in there and they say, oh, it kills everything. So that's not true, first of all. That's been blown out of proportion. These are massive machines. When the ground starts rumbling, believe it or not, lots of animals run away because they're not stupid, right? So they get the hell out of there. So that's a bit of a myth. But there is a lot of there's a lot of impact on wild animals and animals in these areas for sure. It's just not this image everyone has in their head of a combine harvester just tearing up mice and stuff. That's not really happening. And if it does, it's not happening a lot because they've run away. So, but even so, there are problems there, yeah. The thing is that growing crops for humans is one thing, but we grow enough crops to feed 80 billion animals in farms because they need animal feed, right? And so if your concern is how much harm are we doing to animals, do you want to focus on the harm that's done to animals in human crop farming, which, by the way, can be improved? Or do you want to focus on the harm being done to animals in animal crop farming, which was all these crops for 80 billion animals fed to the animals? And then what do we do with the 80 billion animals? We kill them too. And by the way, that number's also into the trillions if you include the fish and the fish farms, okay? Because they give the fish feed as well, which is also from the crops. Which of these two do you want to tackle first? For me, it's obvious in every way possible that we need to tackle animal agriculture and the issues with that and stop that. And then we can look to improve our crop industry and make it better for those animals. But you're not going to, I don't believe you can do one without the other. Like, imagine if right now all the vegans said, hey, we're going to improve crop farming. Can we get the public behind us to improve crop farming? They'd say, why? They'd say, oh, because it's affecting insects and mice. They'd be like, well, but we pay people to breed pigs, cows, and chickens in the billions and kill them. Why would we care about mice and insects? You know what I mean? It's putting the cart before the horse. You got to start with the animal agriculture. You got to start with the intentional breeding of billions of animals and killing them, and all that crop harvesting that goes to that. I think that's where we begin. So yeah, in short, veganism's not perfect. It's not like you go vegan and boom, you're amazing for animals. Everything's perfect. No. Any way you live is going to have an impact on animals, but being a vegan has a significantly lower impact than not being a vegan, and then we can improve on that. I think that's a great place to start.
Yeah, I think the whole goal is to try and make things as better and better. Like we're obviously
Yeah.
not just gonna like solve the problem like that. It's like
No,
we're trying to
it'd be
make
great
it
if we
better and
could.
better. Yeah, and like you said, like if we start with the bigger animals in the slaughterhouses, that's better than starting with like the vegetation or whatever. In terms of like a bigger picture, and like I said, most of this I heard from Joe Rogan, who I don't agree with. These are all just kind of like questions that I've heard come from him or someone like him.
Right.
But in terms of like a bigger picture thing, I mentioned Peter Singer before. I don't know if you know
Sure.
who do you know who Alex O'Connor is?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, so he had Peter Singer on, and Alex O'Connor, I think. I mean, if I'm correct on this, I'm pretty sure he
Hmm.
doesn't really believe in like moral objectivism, meaning that like morals are, they're subjective, not objective. Like, so I could have my own morals, you can have your own morals. What
Sure.
about somebody who just doesn't really believe in morals like at all? Like you're an atheist, you don't really believe in God.
Hmm.
You think we're just animals, we've evolved, you
Sure.
know, and we can basically do whatever we want because there are no morals. I mean, what's your stance on that? Like,
Yeah. So no matter what someone believes, there is a reason that they should be good to animals and make changes for animals. So if you believe that morals come from God, and that's your thing, okay, morals come from God. Okay, I would ask you, is your God peaceful or violent? Is your God good or evil? Everyone says, no, my God is good and not violent at all. No, peaceful God. Okay, then answer me this: if you know, as you know for a fact that you can get all your nutrition without funding that system that we've already discussed, you know that for a fact now. We've sorted it out. And the only reason that you're not doing that, the only reason you're continuing to buy those products is because you like how they taste. So you're paying someone to breed an animal, violate their body, and then kill them because you like how they taste. Would a peaceful God approve of that, or would they not approve of that? If you're a Christian, what would Jesus think of you? And tell me, what would he do? What would Jesus do? Would he kill the animal? If the answer is yes, how would he kill the animal? How would Jesus kill an animal for a burger for taste? The answer is he wouldn't do it. So if you base your beliefs in religion, then there's your reason. Okay, it doesn't need to be in the Bible for you to make a conclusion. The Bible might say that, oh, eating meat is good or whatever, and things like that. It might say that, but it doesn't say you have to do it. And you can make your own decisions based on your understanding of Jesus and who he was and the lessons he taught. And he didn't teach you to be, selfish and violent and go for pleasure. He taught you to be selfless. He taught you to be good to others, and others can include animals. If you're the opposite scale and you believe there's no morals and everything is whatever, I would just appeal to your personal morals then. Are you against animal cruelty? And if you say, no, I'm not against animal cruelty, I don't care about animals, you're in such a minority of the population that I would probably not continue the conversation, because why would anybody want to be associated with somebody like that? 90% of the population would hear someone say, no, I love being cruel to animals, and say, okay, the society will take care of that person. You know what I mean? I think there is some benefit to kind of, especially when you take religion out of it, to society. What's the word I'm looking for here? Not expelling people, but sort of societal judgment can be a good thing. And if somebody goes and outwardly says, I love animal abuse, vegan or not, most people say, you're a scumbag. And that's good, right? I think that's good. It's a good incentive to not be a scumbag. But if most people do say, they say, yeah, I'm against animal cruelty. I don't see the point in abusing an animal, even if I don't think there's like some moral, God or objective moral to it. I personally wouldn't do it. I think it's wrong. I don't like it. Cool. And then we can go from there then, can't we? It doesn't need to involve anything else, right? So it just depends on the person, but you can be a Hindu, a Christian, a Muslim, a Jew, you can be an atheist, you can be agnostic, you can be whatever. It doesn't matter. There's none of these religions or belief systems oppose being good to animals. It's all compatible with it.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious too on Jesus too. I mean, I'm
Mm.
assuming Jesus did eat. I think we know he ate fish, right? But you kind of wondered how he like went about it. About
So he did. There is no. We're gonna. If you're interested in this, are you a Christian yourself?
yeah, I was raised
Right.
Christian, and yeah.
So there's a film I'd recommend you watch. It's for free. It's called Christspiracy. It's about these very, very passionate Christian who spent 7 years making a film with this great filmmaker, and they explored Jesus's history, Jesus in the Bible, everything. And there's a lot of things that were purposefully hidden. There's a lot of things that were purposefully changed. For example, the idea that Jesus ate fish and fed the 500 with the 5,000, sorry, with fish and loaves. But then later on, in a later passage, Jesus doesn't even talk about fish. He says, when I fed people with the loaves, for example. So that's an inconsistency. And if you go back to read the translation that they used for fish, it actually translates to something more like a seaweed or like a paste, because there was multiple words for fish. There's multiple words for all these different things. And so this is not just me talking out of my arse. There are scholars and theologists who also back this up, who say the word was mistranslated, that he never fed people with fish and he never ate fish himself, that it was some kind of spread made from seaweed, actually. And so, yeah, don't take my word for this, by the way. This is me off the cuff here from what I've learned. I'm not an expert on this, but I'm very close to experts on it, which is why I've got some knowledge on it. But Christspiracy, yeah, it's christspiracy.com. If you're interested in Jesus and teachings and how it relates to animals, it's a great film.
Yeah, are you Christian or?
I'm a little confused, to be totally honest with you. I started out life as a kind of raised with no religion, and then I took an interest in Christianity, and I think I believed for a while I was young. I turned to not believing, and then more recently I've been quite inspired by Jesus and then the teachings and learning more about him, and it really kind of reinvigorated this passion of like, wow, this is awesome, and this is a really inspirational stories and inspirational teachings. And I'm still not on. I don't believe in kind of the deity side of things. I don't think I'm not convinced of the existence of a God, but I am 100% convinced to live as a Christian. So it's kind of, I'm a practicing Christian without the God side of it, which is kind of strange.
Yeah,
For some Christians would just say I'm not a Christian, and that's fine. I don't mind it, but I'm living like that, and I'm quite happy with that.
yeah, yeah. I'm very interested in the whole like Alex O'Connor type kind of, I guess, religious debates. Even
Yeah.
though I'm raised Christian, I'm not really like I don't go to church and stuff like that, and I like yeah, it's kind of hard for me to like say like I'm not a Christian, but I kind of am like kind of like you. I'm able to see both sides, and I still will say that I am a Christian, and I am very interested in
Sure.
it. Do you
Cool,
know
man.
what the Bible? Not like it really even matters, but like, do you
Mm,
know? But it's like obviously each religion is different, but it's in
yeah.
whole. But do you know what the Bible in general does say about eating meat? I know like with the Jewish religion, like there's certain like meats like pork not to eat, but like is it
Right.
kind of like pro eating meat in general or?
Parts of it, yes. So, long story short, I won't give too much of this film away, but it goes into it that there's the Paul was very, very pro meat, and him and his followers actually did very a good job of shutting down anyone who was anti-meat. And actually, they actually murdered people for it. Like it's pretty crazy. This story. He shut down all these different sects and the different groups that had different opinions. For example, you had the Nazarenes, I believe they were called, and they were all vegetarians. Jesus' brother was a vegetarian, for example, and so Jesus never explicitly said, I don't eat meat," but everybody around him seemed to say they didn't eat meat. So you could it's very controversial to say, but you could deduce from that he likely didn't eat meat. But a lot of people really get upset when you say that. So this is just a theory. You know, I'm not an expert. The theologians theorize this, but yeah, the Bible it does include a lot of seem to be pro-meat messaging, especially from this guy Paul. But it's been tampered with, and this is what this documentary goes into as well. It's not doubting Christianity at all, because the guy said the guy who made it is very, very passionate Christian. He actually used to be in a gospel band, and he's really, really a God-loving man. But he doubts the veracity of some of the passages, and that you can actually prove that they were edited, and that mistranslations were made and things like that to tell a certain story. And so the answer, in the short, yes, the Bible does seem to have some pro-meat passages, but when you analyze them, they start to kind of fall apart a little bit, and some of them shouldn't be trusted. And so it's not as simple as the Bible says it's okay to eat meat. It's not as quite as simple as that.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting how what you said about Paul was an avid meat eater, and then he was against people who, because you
Hmm.
would almost think that Paul would be trying to like follow the teachings of Jesus, which you would, like you said, were probably more not pro eat meat. You know what I mean? That's kind of interesting. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, I can't remember the exact reason that he was a kind of opposed to that teaching. But you'll have to, yeah. There's a lot of information. Like I said, it's 7 years of information in that film, and it's not even all of it. They had to cut down, to make it a watchable film. But it's a very, very good film.
Yeah. I mean, the whole thing's complicated, and I'm actually doing some like videos on it right, like YouTube short videos on it right now. The
Right.
religion in general is just there's so much to it that it's hard to even know exactly, what it says about specific things. You kind of have to
Yeah.
like read, you take things a certain way or whatever. But so in
Yeah.
terms of the future of
Hmm.
of non of non meat eating or being vegetarian, I've heard like a lot of going like I kind of feel like this is one of those conspiracy theories
Hmm.
things where like Alex Jones or whoever will say like they're trying to like force the fake meat
Yeah.
stuff on us or whatever, and some people
Yeah.
are against it. But do you feel like we're kind of going towards that type of future where everything is kind of like impossible burger or impossible burgers or whatever like, and then
Hmm.
also do you think we'll get to a point where I've kind of heard like we might even get to a point where like when you eat like you just pop a pill or something and like that gives you like everything you need. Do you think it'll ever
Yeah.
get to that point?
No, I'm not sure. But well, when we do, if we're going to do space travel and we figure out a way to go really, really far, then we're going to have to come up with something like that. So I think that's not going to be our lives. We're not going to see that. But yeah, if we're still around, if we don't blow ourselves up in the next 500 years, then yeah, that would probably be what's going to be there. But in terms of Alex Jones and what he believes, and it's not just Alex Jones, by the way. There are some people that are more
Yeah.
moderate than him who they really don't like the kind of the fake meat movement, the vegan meat movement, and stuff. And the
It's
reason they
so
don't,
it's so weird that they're like opposed to it. I don't really get why they would be opposed to it. You know what I
I can
mean?
tell you why. I can tell you why. It's because the problem is there are groups out there that are they're not vegans, all right? They don't care about animals, and they are pushing the vegan meat and the plant-based meats as part of an environmental agenda. That's what they're doing. But the problem is, and why a lot of people criticize these people, is the people who are telling everybody to oh, do it for the planet, like Leonardo DiCaprio and Bill Gates and these guys. They are not doing it themselves, right? So they might push like, oh, we need to eat plant-based and fly less, but Leonardo DiCaprio flies around in a private jet and guaranteed he's eating steaks every night, right? And the same with Bill Gates. And so a lot of people start to question, like, well, hold up, why are the elites telling us to do this and they're not doing it themselves? And then you start to get conspiracy theories, or they want to control us, they want to take away our choice, they want us to live on this and while they live on that. And I'm quite empathetic to that. It annoys me as well. Do as I say, not as I do. That really bothers me, and it frustrates me. And what really, really frustrates me about it is I get lumped in with them, right? I get lumped in with these people that seem to only want to control the masses, and it's all about control and making money. But that's not me. Vegans aren't trying to control people or make money off people. We literally are trying to get people to consciously and choose different choices by their own doing because they care about animals and because they think that we shouldn't do all these horrible things to animals. That's what we're trying to achieve. We're not trying to, I don't know, just control people or make them do what we want because we want to get more power from them or something like that. But it's a shame because we get lumped in with that. People often will tell me, "Oh, you're one of Bill Gates' stooges," and I'm like, "No, I've got nothing to do with Bill Gates. I don't link me with this guy. I'm just trying to get you to make a good
So
choice for
so weird.
animals. Yeah, but I get where they're coming from because it is annoying. It is very frustrating to see these big, powerful people try and tell you how to live while they do the complete opposite, right?
But
It's really annoying.
the whole thing is like, how do we really know? I mean, I'm assuming maybe we do know how much how many times they're flying in jets and stuff, but
We
it's like,
do.
how do we really know what they're eating? Like, do we really know they're eating? Maybe they are trying to be, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I feel like, a lot of these people have been caught at restaurants and they've been caught at these fancy places that don't really have vegan options and stuff like that. And
Yeah.
being honest with if you've spent your whole life as eating animals and you aren't interested and you've not looked into the ethics and why not to eat animals, and you have unlimited funding, unlimited money, and your concern is the environment. I feel like people will make exceptions for the environment, right? I don't know. You go to the store, you take your own bags with you, right? But if you forget your own bags, what are you going to do? You're going to buy a bag. Is it plastic? You don't really care at the moment because you need to buy a bag. People make exceptions, but when it comes to life or death and abuse and suffering, people don't make exceptions to that, right? So if you go to the store and all you can find is meat, and you are opposed to killing animals because you see that animals they don't deserve to be killed just for a piece of meat, and you've made that connection, you'll say, "Oh, I'll go somewhere else then." Right? But if you forget your shopping bags, you're not going to go home, are you? You're going to just pick up the bag, even though it's bad for the planet. So back to my point I'm making here is that I don't believe someone like Leo is doing without the things he loves for the planet. I just don't buy it. I don't buy it. When you have that much money and that much, success, you're just going to do what you want, aren't you? Right? Unless you have some
I mean,
ethical
that's
reasons.
kind of like the hard part about it is it's like, I think anybody who's at that level who's trying to do something quote unquote good, anybody can look at and be like, oh, you're a hypocrite or whatever because you're rich and it's impossible for you to be rich and not be doing these things. So it's probably difficult for anybody at that level to be preaching anything. The
That's
Bill
true.
Gates thing. So the Bill Gates thing is weird because it's like from what I've seen of Bill Gates, I have nothing against him. Like he seems like he's attempting to do good stuff for the world, but then I hear all this backlash about him, and it's like, I mean, so I obviously like just like anybody else, like I hate hypocrisy,
Mm,
but I think to a certain extent maybe I'm like also maybe naive. So like when I walk in, like if I work at Amazon, and like if I walk into an Amazon station and they have this like pride stuff up and whatever, they're super like they're trying to be quote, and same with Apple trying to be quote unquote like um
like inclusive and
inclusive, but then
yeah.
also like friendly to the environment or whatever,
Okay.
economically friendly or whatever they're trying to do. I
Yeah.
tend
It's
to be
total
like, well,
nonsense, isn't it?
well, it's
We
probably
know
total.
it's nonsense.
It's probably it is nonsense, but like at least they're like trying to paint this picture. And like, it's one thing if they're complete hypocrites, which maybe they are, like maybe Bill Gates or Leonardo DiCaprio is,
Mm,
but like at least they're trying to. It's better that like let's just take the racism thing, or like let's just take the animal thing. Since for you, it's one thing if like you're a total hypocrite and you're out hunting and you're killing animals and you're just like kind of torturing animals and then you
mhm.
say that you're animal friendly. But it's another thing if you're kind of like in the middle, like maybe somebody like me, and like I do eat meat, but I'm all for like, at least attempting to help animals. Like, you know what I mean? Like I'm for what you're trying to do. I could probably do more myself, as opposed to being like, no, like just fuck it, just kill them all. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? Like I feel like
No, I get what you
at
mean.
least at
So,
least you're like
yeah, yeah.
trying to be that way, or like at least for
I
in terms of
understand where you get.
society, maybe they'll like maybe we're heading in that direction kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Mhm. I
But
understand
I
what you're
can
getting
also
at.
see how it would be totally hypocritical too if
Yeah.
you're, yeah. So
I'm willing to be proven wrong. I'm willing to be proven wrong on both Bill Gates and Leonardo DiCaprio, to be honest with you. Like, if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'm happy if I'm wrong. But I get the impression that I'm not wrong. And with what you said about Amazon, the problem is with Amazon and with Apple or whoever it is, doing some, for example, some LGBT stuff or doing some Black Lives Matter stuff or doing some environmental stuff, is in one way, yes, you're right. Does it mean something that they're actually saying, hey, look, here's the thing, sure. But it only means something if doing that is going to get them in trouble, right? If doing that just makes them successful because that's what people want, but they actually don't do anything, like then that's called, well, you could call it greenwashing if it's environmental. For example, everybody wants the environment to be good right now. That's the big thing, right? So Amazon and Apple, they're like, yeah, we're going to do stuff for the environment, or we're going to at least look like we are. So everyone buys more products from them. That's not good. That's just sales. And it's the same with when BLM, in 2020 with George Floyd. Like, oh my God, everybody in the world wants to talk about this. So then, okay, great. Apple guys, get together. What can we do to capitalize on this movement? It's not like with good intentions, and usually it's all flashy and colorful and it looks great, but they don't do anything. They actually don't help anyone or achieve anything. They're not actually helping the planet. They're not helping women or LGBT people. They just put the flag up, they put it on their logo. Everyone says, oh, they're a great company. Now I'm going to give them more money. And then the second June's over, they take the logo down. Everyone forgets until next year. Do you know what I mean? So it's performative. And I think that's what annoys a lot of people.
yeah, don't get me wrong. Like I'm definitely against most big companies, and I think they're full of shit, and like they just treat their workers like shit and all that. But it's like
Right.
when it comes to this type of thing, I kind of feel like just even pretending to be that way is better than maybe not being that way at all. Like let's just say I go into
Mhm.
like I said, I work for Amazon. If I go into an Amazon warehouse
Sure.
and I see the pride flag and I go in and I've like literally worked with trans people in there, and there's all
Hmm.
sorts of whites, blacks, Mexicans, like different everything.
Hmm.
At least they're attempting to do that. They're maybe they're even being forced to by the government, who knows. But then let's say I go to another warehouse where like they just don't give a shit. They're just racist, basically.
Yeah.
You can tell they're racist. There is a difference there. Like, you know what I mean? And maybe
So
Amazon, and the whole
I'll
thing
tell
is
you.
too is like I think the
Yeah.
main thing would be the indifference. Like let's just say like I'm indifferent on,
Hmm.
not even indifferent, but on maybe homosexuals or trans or like black people or Mexican people. I'm not indifferent, but let's just say I am. But then I go on my social media and I say, I am against homophobia, I'm against racism.
Hmm.
That's, I think, okay, as long as not by being indifferent, maybe I'm not super active, but like, does that make sense? I don't know. I feel like that's
No,
better
I
than
get what
going
you're
on
saying.
X
I
and saying
think.
like putting up a
Yeah.
swastika or whatever.
No, of
Because I
course.
feel
Yeah.
like, yeah, you know
I
what
know.
I
I understand
mean?
what you're saying, but at the same time, I think Amazon coming out and saying we support LGBT and we support black people is like Amazon saying we support drinking water. it means nothing in a society that already supports black people and already supports LGBT people. It's if Amazon came out first, if they were the first company to ever support LGBT people, I would 100% agree with you. I'd say, wow, what an incredible company. But when they're just kind of jumping on a bandwagon that society has already decided is the right thing, I don't really see it as meaningful. For example, people don't particularly like vegans. Now, for whatever reason, I think it's probably mostly because of projection. They feel bad. We make them feel bad, right? And I understand
Well,
that.
it's stupidity.
It's not. I understand why people feel bad. It's, if someone makes you feel bad about something you
I
enjoy
think it's
doing,
more. I don't
you
know.
take it out on them.
I kind of think it's more of like an alpha male type
There's
stupid
that. There's
mentality.
that as well.
And
There's multiple
yeah,
angles to it. But I'll get to my
yeah,
point. The
yeah,
point is that if Amazon tomorrow came out and said, we are making our lunch canteens vegan because we care about animals, that would be impressive because most people wouldn't support it. That would be a real stand. Like, we're going to do this. But they don't do that. No big company does that because it doesn't get them profit. But do you know what does get them profit? Putting a pride flag up.
yeah. But the thing is like let's just say they did do that. Like and Jeff Bezos is let's just say he's a big meat eater, but
Right.
they decide to go vegan friendly or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I kind of feel like somebody like you would at least be like, oh well, cool. Like at least they're like,
Oh, for sure, yeah, because
you know what I mean?
would
At
it would
least
mean
they're
a lot because the whole society would be against them, and we really need we really need a win here. Like, vegans to have that backing would be incredible. But let me tell you, it doesn't need more backing. The LGBT community, they have it literally everywhere. It's literally everywhere. So when a company like Amazon jumps on, it's not like they're changing the world for LGBT people. You know, and there are companies and groups that could jump on, that could help, but Amazon or these corporations, they're not the ones that are going to make the world a better place for LGBT people. They're doing it because it's not to help them. They're doing it because they know it brings in the change, and because it's easy.
yeah,
It's easy. No one
yeah,
cares. You know what I mean?
yeah,
It's like
yeah.
no
Well,
one's gonna.
the thing is, I'm sure there are some people in the company who probably really do. Like, there's probably some
Oh,
people in the
inside the
company,
company.
inside the
Sure, there's a flag
company.
inside. Yeah, no, I'm talking
Well,
more
no,
about externally.
I even mean the executive, the people who work there. Like, there's some people
Yeah.
in there who probably are like, oh, they actually are. Like, I'm assuming, like, when people say this type of stuff about Hollywood, it's kind of like,
Mm,
well, I'm assuming there are people in Hollywood who really actually, yeah, there might be a lot of people in Hollywood who don't believe in this type of stuff, but there's probably
right.
a lot of people in Hollywood who do believe in this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And in my opinion, that's a win for, like, obviously, like, it can go overboard on, like you're saying, on the woke stuff. Like, it can be like too far, like to one extreme. But I
Mm.
mean, in my opinion, that's better, being all inclusive and all that kind of type of stuff. Even if you're, I don't really want to say even if you're faking it, but like even if, like, if Hollywood or whatever company is trying to include more people and they're doing that,
Mm.
in my opinion, that's for the better. But
I guess we just
it could
differ on
also
that.
just be fake.
I
But
don't. Yeah, I'm not big on insincerity, and I
well,
don't like
I'm definitely not big on
greenwashing and.
insincerity. But
Yeah,
yeah,
I guess greenwashing, pinkwashing, and basically pinkwashing is LGBT. Like, that's when a company pretends to be LGBT friendly to make money. They call it pinkwashing, and when a company pretends to be environmentally friendly to make money, they call it greenwashing. So this is quite well established that companies do this, and I suppose I agree with you in a sense that. Must be nice for the people working for those companies to feel like the company supports them, but I'm just not convinced they actually do. That's the problem. I'm not convinced
well,
it's real, actual support.
well, like I said, there's probably some people in the company who do, and there's probably some people in like, I doubt the whole company agree,
Right,
is
right.
one way or the other. So,
Yeah, good point.
and then in terms of making money, don't get me wrong. Like I said, I hate these companies, but in terms of making money, like they're only doing it to make money. That's kind of like what they're there for, unfortunately, because of capitalism.
Sure,
Like
sure,
they're
sure. I get what you
trying to
mean.
make, and like you said, it's totally phony and greedy, but and fake. But
Mm,
at least as a society, we're moving in at least I like to see that in a society we're moving in that direction, and
hmm.
hopefully in a society we're also moving in the direction that you're going for
Yeah,
too. I
hope
don't know if
so.
you think that we are, moving in that direction or not.
Well,
But
that was the
I
kind of
would,
question. Sorry, we never got to it. That was your
which
original. It was about lab meat and stuff. Well, will we end up there? That I didn't even. We went off on a tangent. But there's a short answer. Actually, I think that once lab meat or cell meat or clean meat or whatever you want to call it has reached a point where it's easy to make and it's cheaper than animal meat, I think then yeah, possibly that big amounts of society are going to switch to that. And you never know, like it actually could end up being something that brings a lot of people out of poverty because eventually it will become easier to produce and it requires significantly less land, significantly less resources. And we might be able to get more calories out to people in an easier way when we're making it in a factory instead of making it in a, well, in a whatever you call it, a clean, smaller factory instead of what we're using now, which is just acres and acres and acres of land to grow plants for these animals and land to put them on, and then everything the horrible things we do to them. It's a very inefficient system that we have right now. And yeah, this more efficient system with something like lab-based meat, even just a plant-based system would be significantly more efficient. If you take the morals out of it, I think I've already explained why the morals around not doing this to animals and why it's important. But even if you remove that, just in terms of efficiency, plant-based food system would be significantly more efficient. A plant-based food system where we are growing meat in a lab, or it's not even a lab, it's more like it's kind of how they make bread. It's like a similar process to making bread, but they use it to make meat. That's going to be a significantly more efficient system that will be able to feed more people with less resources. So I think that's hopefully where we're headed.
and do you think we're close to getting to the point where potentially all meat or most meat will be
Mm.
factory made?
The next 5 to 10 years, they're expecting the technology will be good enough that it will be cheaper to produce meat in a with fermentation. And then once we get to that point, I don't know. I don't. Depends on who's the president. Depends on what the political situation is, because a lot of the political right or conservatives or even just center right, they're using this as their kind of calling card of vote for me. I'm going to stop the fake meat because people are scared of what they don't understand, and that's a really good way of getting votes is to be afraid of this thing that's identical to meat that's made in a clean lab instead of a bloody dirty slaughterhouse full of urine and feces. Well, it's made in a lab, so be terrified of it, right? This is what they do: stir up fear and then make the votes off it. So as long as they don't win, as long as when this all comes about, we have reasonable, well-educated people who care about the world, then yeah, it could happen really quick. But if these other types are in more positions of power, then it'll take a lot longer.
And do these plant-based, I guess they're called impossible burgers or whatever, like these
That's some
types of
examples,
things,
yeah.
do they have protein in them? Do they like kind of um fakely or whatever
Yeah.
what is that called? Artificially put like protein into them?
So, well, the Impossible Burger, I can't remember what that's made from. The Beyond Burger is made from pea protein, so it pretty much is protein. It's just but it's a protein burger made from plants. And the as for the other kind of plant-based products, I mean, most of them have some form of plant protein in them, whether it's from a pea or a soy or wheat. For example, there's a product called seitan. That's Seitan. It's a product that originated in Asia. They've been eating it for a long time. It is extremely high in protein, and it's very similar texture, and it can be spiced up like meat. Super high in protein. That's from wheat, believe it or not. So there are lots of options, that really high protein options. But lab meat, when it's like I said, when it's at scale, will be identical to meat in every way. And so at
And
that point, that will make things a little easier for people to change, I'm sure.
is the protein the same? Like if I eat
Hmm.
that type of protein as opposed to like a burger, would
Hmm.
that be pretty much identical in terms of the way I feel? Like I feel, have energy or whatever it does.
So yeah, if you're asking about like a Beyond Burger, I wouldn't recommend relying on a Beyond Burger for health reasons. A Beyond Burger's got a lot of salt in it. It's a burger. You're not going to eat hamburgers for health, right? It's just not something that's advisable. So don't eat Beyond Burgers for health either. Eat them in place of hamburgers because you feel like a burger, but you don't want to. Well, A, you don't want to kill an animal, and B, maybe you want to avoid cholesterol, right? The Beyond Burger's spot on for that. So if you feel like a burger, but if you want to eat healthily and you want to get protein from healthy whole foods, then there's no difference in terms of your like ability to build muscle, your ability to feel good between plant protein and animal protein. You just got to make sure you're eating enough plant protein and you'll be fine. You'll be able to. There's bodybuilders, there's vegan bodybuilders out there that are absolutely massive, and they're eating plant protein. So it's absolutely possible. They did a study on this. They compared soy protein to animal-based protein and found no difference at all, statistically significant difference that is, between the two for building muscle. And actually the soy protein, it's not statistically valid, but it had slightly better results for building muscle, which was pretty crazy. But yeah, but it's not statistically significant, so there's no point. It's not like take it with a pinch of salt, that, but basically they were the same, more or less. And so that's just for soy protein. So soy protein is good if you want to build muscle. But yeah, you can get protein from a variety. Every single vegetable has protein. A lot of people don't know this. Like every single one of them. Broccoli has protein in it.
Okay, and then what was the reason why you were saying people are like people? I hate to keep naming like the same names, but people like Alex Jones are
Yeah.
against it. What did you give the reason why they're
Yeah, I
against
did.
it?
Yeah. Basically
What
it's to
was it
do
again?
there are these groups, that globalist groups, that they have these globalist goals, just basically they want to form one government that controls the whole world. They want to control everyone. They want to take certain things away from us and control how much we can do this and that, and
Yeah,
carbon taxes and environmental. And as part of that, they also include that, oh, you should not eat meat anymore, and you shouldn't eat animal products anymore. And it's part of their system. And so Alex Jones and those types, they think vegans like me, they think that we're in bed with them, but
yeah,
we're
okay,
not in
yeah,
bed with them. We're
like
not.
Bill
I'm not in
Gates.
bed with them at all. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
don't agree with their intentions and what they want to do to people.
yeah,
But even though, my goal isn't to take people's to control people. My goal is to, like I said, have people change because they connect with animals. I'm trying to connect people with animals. That's what I'm trying to do.
yeah. I forgot that was the reason why you brought up like Bill Gates and Leonardo
Yeah, that's how we
DiCaprio,
got
because
onto that whole thing.
like the
Yeah.
hypocrisy. And I mean the whole globalist thing would be another whole.
Oh yeah, no, it's a whole thing, man. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not too versed on it, but this is from what I know from people telling me, like, oh, you're this, you're that, you're a globalist puppet and stuff. And I had to look into it because, like, what the hell does that mean? And then
yeah. No,
that's when I
I know
found out.
about it because my dad's into all that kind of stuff, and
Right.
he watches Alex Jones, and so he tells me about how the globalists are taking over. And from my
Yeah.
perspective, I'm kind of like, I don't really see this as necessarily being like a bad thing, but like I said, I would want to go into that, but because of time, we won't be able to. So yeah, just one thing that's funny with me is like I obviously like the taste of meat, and
Mhm.
like especially if it's in like a burrito or a hamburger, like hot dog, I like it. But like if I just eat meat, it's kind of like it's almost like kind of gross to me. Like if I just eat like a plain hot dog or a burger
Right.
or like especially like chicken, it's just kind
Right.
of like it almost seems kind of like just gross. Like just the fact that you're eating the insides of an animal, to me,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's gross if you think about it. It's like I kind of feel like we've almost evolved to a point where like we're beyond that. Don't get me wrong, I still do like a steak from time to time or whatever, but I almost feel like we've gone to a point where like maybe we shouldn't be eating an animal's insides, literally.
Mhm.
When you think about it as a mature adult, it's kind of a bizarre thing. Um,
Mhm.
but I wanted to ask you these two questions earlier, but we kind of like quickly went on to other things.
Mhm.
You said obviously we can go over these fast too, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay.
What you eat when you were working out, and then
Mhm.
also you mentioned like a pill that you should take, the vitamin B12 or
B12.
whatever it
Yeah.
was.
Yeah.
Um, for somebody who's looking to get into this, what kind of stuff should they eat? And then also like if they're looking to work out, like what
Yeah.
kind of meal should or stuff should they be eating?
Fair enough. It's a good question. So if you're looking to start making these changes now, just make it easy on yourself. So if you like hot dogs and burgers and pizzas, Go and get yourself vegan hot dogs and burgers and pizzas. Go on an adventure and buy every brand you can afford, every brand you can find. Try all of them, and you might find that all of them are awesome. You might find that only some of them are your kind of thing. I mean, you got to try them out, right? Some people love certain brands, and some people say, "How can you love that? It's disgusting. That's the worst thing ever." It's the same as all food. Some people will, don't like hot dogs. Some people absolutely love hot dogs. Same thing when you're trying the vegan alternatives. So just get out there and try all the vegan alternatives. Find the ones you like and keep buying them. Put them in the fridge. Sorted. Make it easy on yourself. Don't do some crazy whole diet shift right in one go. Just get the stuff you like. Make it vegan. Done. If you're looking to do like some more health stuff, build muscle or get fitter or lose weight and all these, then it all changes. Of course, you don't want to be just doing what you were doing before, but vegan. You need to actually make some changes along with it if you're looking to get health benefits. I mean, what I did to put weight on, I ate a lot of whole food, actually, a lot of chickpeas, a lot of lentils, a lot of potatoes, some vegetables, but honestly, vegetables, I'm not a big vegetable fan, funnily enough. I prefer like other stuff. Potatoes is my jam, but other stuff, not so much. But yeah, a lot of chickpeas, lentils, a lot of high calorie dense foods, nuts and seeds, nut butters. I was smashing them every day. I was doing a lot of seitan, that stuff I mentioned earlier, which is really high in protein. I was doing a lot of soy. And also, by the way, soy, there's a lot of fear mongering around soy. Don't be afraid of it. It's very good for you. It doesn't make you into a woman. It doesn't give you man boobs. All this nonsense that's out there is complete lies. If soy gave you boobs, there'd be no need for trans surgeries. They just eat a load of soy. You know what I mean? It's so silly. And they wouldn't take hormones, because they just eat soy. It doesn't. It's not. It's, you're gonna bump into that as you research this. All right, this claims about soy. It's nonsense. Soy's perfectly fine, and there are these things. It's called texturized soy, right, or TVP, or texturized soy, or soy pieces, or soy crumble. That shit is amazing. You can literally get a bag of it, super cheap. It's just these little dry kind of. You can't eat them raw. You'd be weird if you did. But the kind of like dried soy, little clumps, and if you pour them into like a chili or pasta sauce, it thickens it up and turns it into kind of like a bolognese type thing, and is extremely high in protein. It's like 50% protein per gram. So you can put in, however many grams of that, and it expands, and it's super, super high protein. So I'm smashing that every day as well, pretty much. Um, and yeah, that was it for me, just high calories. But obviously, if you're looking to lose weight, so if you're trying to like go that way, then as I said earlier, whole food plant-based would be your best bet. So like a lentil curry or a chickpea curry or chickpea chili, lentil chili, things like that. And I was eating massive portions of these, with loads of things added to make them as, high calorie as possible. You just do the opposite. You just figure out what calories do you want to be on, right, per day or per week, whatever it is, to lose weight. You need to be in a deficit, so you need to eat less than you need, and then just work out these meals using something like Chronometer, and make sure that you don't overeat, and you'll shed pounds really easy, and you'll be able to either shed pounds or gain muscle. And the best part of it all, you're not doing it off the back of these poor innocent animals who go through all of the things that we were talking about earlier. You mentioned there like you're partial to a steak, and it's easy to grab a steak when you don't have to see what happened before that. And I know it's uncomfortable to face it, but the reality is that I've seen this with my own two eyes. These steaks and burgers and everything is coming from animals that literally are terrified, and they can't speak. They can't tell you I'm begging for my life, but everything they do is showing you it. Their eyes are wide with terror. They thrash. They try and get away. They're absolutely petrified. They do everything but tell you, "Don't kill me." They can't speak. But you've seen a dog when a dog's afraid. When a dog is begging to be left alone, that's what they all do. It's horrifying. So, make your gains and lose your weight and do it that without doing that. That's what I say. That's all I'm trying to say out here.
Yeah, yeah. And I kind of feel like that's like one. I don't really know, but I thought about this a little while ago. That's like
Mm,
one way that humans have maybe have helped us to evolve was just communication. The fact that we can communicate to each other,
yeah, man.
like if I'm being hurt or if I want something from you or don't, I want you to stop. You can say that, but with animals, there's really no way of do? I mean, obviously there's a way of communicating through what you just said, but like they don't have any way of communicating with each other, so it's like hard for to be like to plead with some other animal, like please don't, you know what I mean?
Well,
It's
they scream in
well, no, no,
pain, you know.
yeah, don't get me
But
wrong.
yeah, I know what you're saying.
I see what you're saying, but it's sad that they're not able to communicate with words. Because I
Mm,
feel like if they were able to do that, if they could like tell us, you know, like
hmm.
maybe we would sympathize with them more. We should sympathize with them just based on how
Yeah,
they
yeah, no, I get
look.
you.
But and then also like you could just ask somebody like who's for killing animals. It's like, oh, would you want to kill your dog that you love and eat it? No. Well,
Right.
then why would you want to kill a deer or a
Yeah,
pig or a cow or whatever?
exactly.
Unless you just think that you're better than them, which I'm sure they do. But I wanted to ask you too, real quick, about the journey where you fasted for 10 days. How was that whole in Nepal? How was that whole? Was it kind of like this crazy meditative, like you're in like a on like a mountain, like just
No, no, no.
psychedelic experience, or
No,
no?
I wasn't fasting. It was just silence. That's
Or
all. It was a
silence,
silent
silence,
meditation.
silence. No, yeah, yeah, sorry.
No, it was just in a center in Nepal. It was actually in Lumbini, which is where Buddha was born, and it was pretty cool to be in his birthplace and doing meditation there. It was really difficult. It was a really difficult experience. You just got to meditate 9 hours a day, sit still, meditate 9 hours a day, and you can't speak to anybody at any point. It's completely not allowed. So yeah, it was good. It was a great experience. I think we should. It would be great if everybody was mandated to do it once a year. I think we'd have an incredible world if we all were forced to sit silent and meditate for 10 days a year. You know, I really need to do it again. It was a long time ago, but no, it was an incredible experience. Yeah, it's led me to where I am today, and I'm really happy that you know where I am and that I'm able to spend my life speaking up for animals.
Were you meditating? Like, were you kind of in this like crazy kind of like altered state type thing where some people or no?
Sometimes, sometimes depended on the day. Sometimes I was suffering the entire time and just hating it, and some days I was fully into it and feeling really good. It's difficult. I can't go into too much detail because it's kind of one of the rules. You're not supposed to really tell people what to expect because they have their own thing and you'll ruin it. But yeah, it's up and down. It's a roller coaster. I'll leave it there. I'll tell you that much. It's a roller coaster.
And was there a reason why you went there? Like, were you kind of searching for something when you went there, or
I just done Everest Base Camp, and while I was in the area, I thought, let's do something else crazy and you know, once in a lifetime. So I headed to that place. Yeah,
did you climb Everest, or
no base camp, just base camp.
what is that? Is that like halfway up the
You,
mountain or something? Or
it's where you start the climb to the top of Everest. Basically, it's where everyone gets all their stuff and ready and begins the trek.
did you climb far at all, or what did you do there?
No, just it's a hike to get to base camp. It's really really far in, but no, you go there, you see Everest, and you go home. Takes like 5 days in total there and back.
Oh wow, so that must have been pretty intense too.
Yeah, it was an intense year. Did a lot of stuff that year.
Wow. So now you're in Croatia
Mhm.
from England. Is there a reason why you're in Croatia?
We just like it here. It's a good place to live, good weather, good people, relatively affordable compared to other European countries and cities, and yeah, good community.
Better than you like it better than England?
Even if I liked England better, I can't afford to live in England. It's crazy. Everywhere's got
Yeah,
a more expensive, but England is particularly expensive. Yeah,
like all of England.
most of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a high it's a high cost country.
Isn't like the only place that I know that's like, well, I guess where the Beatles are from,
Liverpool.
Liverpool or like Manchester is cheaper on the
Hmm.
cheaper side, right?
No,
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 just
maybe well cheaper than London. Yeah, cheaper than London, but not cheap.
Liverpool too.
No, yeah, they're both like premium cities to live in. Unless you live, if you want to live really out in the sticks of Liverpool or Manchester, like really out in some, to be frank, some shithole, then yeah, you could find something a bit cheaper, but you're gonna have a whole host of other problems from living in places like that.
Oh, yeah. For some reason, I thought that Liverpool was like the cheap area. I thought that like Beatles came from like the cheap. Maybe I'm thinking of somewhere else, but
I think it was probably, yeah, they came from they came up in an area that was pretty low income, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah, they weren't like rich or anything, but no, those areas are quite, yeah. I mean, I'm sure some of the people are lovely, but they're not places you would choose to live. There's a lot of, crime and a lot of antisocial behavior, stuff like that in these really low income areas. Yeah, it's not somewhere you'd want to be.
yeah, yeah. I just
But
saw that movie Adolescence. I don't know if or the TV show Adolescence
no,
on
not yet.
Netflix. It's
No,
it's
not
really
yet.
good. So yeah, so lastly, your YouTube channel.
Mhm.
So are you doing the YouTube thing full time, or do you have another
YouTube
job
is,
too?
yeah, I mean, YouTube is pretty much full time, yeah, but I've got other projects going on, but yeah, I pretty much focus social media full time advocacy. My YouTube is, yes, everything's David Rams. YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Threads, and that's everything. Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's really cool if you can do that full time, and that's like kind of like the goal for me. Um, yeah, and then so lastly, I ask everybody. You just plugged your all your stuff. Is there anything else that you're into in terms of TV, music, movies, podcasts? It obviously can be for animal advocacy
hmm
or anything you're into at all right now.
Sure, yeah. I mean, I would just recommend that everybody listening go and watch a film on YouTube called Dominion. That's Dominion. You might want to put Dominion documentary if it doesn't come up. Go and watch that on YouTube. That's a film that I think every one of us should watch. It's not an easy watch. I challenge you to watch it. I'll put a challenge to you and actually all your listeners that I challenge you to watch that film from start to finish. A lot of people can't do it, by the way. So it's a lot of people say they only can only get 5 minutes in, 10 minutes in. I challenge you to try and watch it from start to finish and then see how far you can get. That's Dominion on YouTube.
Okay, cool. And when you went into these places, were you doing like a documentary, or what did you go in saying you were doing? Like, were you just upfront with them about it and saying, "Hey, like, I'm against what
So
you're doing," or did you kind of have to almost like
no,
hide what you were doing?
no, it depends. It depends. A lot of places have been happy to show me around, and sometimes it's yeah, it's a very there's a lot to talk about there, but no, it depends on the place, to be honest with you. But yeah, for one way or another, I've been able to capture a lot of um, footage and from a lot of farms and slaughterhouses.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming on. It went longer than expected. You had a lot more good stuff to say than I mean. I thought that I wouldn't be able to like keep up with it, but there was just so much to talk about. So, thanks for coming on. If you ever want to come back on, let me know, and yeah, I'll send you the links when they're up.
Great. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it. Good questions, man. It's good that you're showing. You obviously did a lot of thinking about this and showed a lot of interest. I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.